1, 2, 3.
Just think about it for fun, so it feels like
Okay.
the most secure one.
You ready?
Unless something else.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to go back a slide. Oh, no, we're fine. I'm gonna blow up Zoom if I do that. Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Everybody ready to get going?
Ready.
So this is a full day of learning. By the way, everything that you're going to learn today is taken from the Red Book. You've got a unique opportunity today that you're going to hear presentations from about 4 to 5 different people on different facets of the business planning clinic, which all are the foundational models to building any business or life worth owning within Keller Williams, right? Or period. So the beautiful thing is that, people often ask me and they say, why KW, right? Why anywhere else? Tools, systems, and models. And are there successful people other places? Absolutely. Are there good people at other places? Absolutely. And somebody said, well, but why this? I said, because nobody else has done it better. And just being honest, I see it all. I was at a conference last week. It was a broker agnostic. It was called the Real Estate Alliance. It's a broker agnostic conference. They asked me to go and represent KW. I went. I'm telling you, there's not a better model. There's not a better model out there economically, but there's not a better model that actually teaches people how to sell real estate and how to build businesses. So I'm always looking. I'm always trying to improve and always trying to better, but that was from this. So why business planning clinic in fourth quarter?
So for next year.
Ready for 2020. Get a head start. Yeah. Prepping next year, head start. All those things are correct. Here's what I think. You ready? The end results of our goal. So one of the things that I'll get to that in a second, but one of the things that we hope that you leave here with today is an actual business plan for 2023, right? Okay, I said 2021. Did everybody just freeze for 2.5 years during COVID? Time didn't move. But the most important part about that is actually how empowering would it be if you knew exactly what you had to do when you woke up in the morning in order to hit your goals every day. I put something on Facebook yesterday, which I don't actually post that often, but it was, and I ordered the book because of it. It was called The Power of One More. Has anybody heard this or read this or know what I'm talking about? Okay, awesome. So it's The Power of One More. And if you go to my Facebook, it's a video I posted yesterday. And the reason I really liked it is because it was a reel of somebody talking. What do they call it? It's like a video and somebody talking over it. What's that called technically? Okay, no one knows.
Voiceover.
Okay, voiceover. It was a voice over a bunch of continuous Mahomes plays. So it's right. So if you're not a Mahomes fan, you just get up and leave. But I'm just kidding. Don't really do that. Point being is it was the power of one more. And in the story, he was talking about, going through life with adversity, kind of getting knocked down. And we've all heard this, but he said something. He said, when I was growing up as a younger kid, my dad was an alcoholic. And he said, my dad got sober one day. He said, I asked my dad shortly after that, he said, Dad, are you going to stay sober the rest of your life? And he said, I don't know, son. He goes, but I'm going to stay sober today. And I thought about it. I get really where I'm at right now in my life with a lot of things. I took that to heart and I was like, I think sometimes we even think of 2023 and we think to December, we try to visualize when you go December 1, 2023. That's right. Yeah. December 30. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm off on my years. That's how I know I won. But you know how you get there is by winning every day. And that's my point in this is that at the end of the day, you're going to have your business plan. And typically that looks like I want X amount of money, or I want X amount of et cetera, or I want X amount of closed units. And what we're going to do today is foundationally work that all the way back so that but all you need to do is come in and make 2 contacts, 20 contacts, 10 contacts, whatever it is that fits your goal is what we're going to be able to have. So my ask in that is that you actually go back and watch the video because it was pretty cool and I didn't do it justice, but it's a way. And that's what I want you to understand is that, yeah, we have to win 2023, but you know how you do that is by winning 12 consecutive months. You know how you do that is by winning 4 weeks every month. And you know how you do that is by winning 5 days every week. And all you have to do is focus on the day. That's actually what a business plan does. The reason I see that some people get to the end of the year and they haven't actually hit their goal is because they never actually measured it incrementally. And then what happens is we look at it at the end of first quarter and we're behind and we actually resigned. So the interesting thing about Business Planning Clinic is it actually gives you a formula all the way down to the number of contacts or the number of appointments that you need to make in order to hit your goals. Because see, what happens is that our goals really are the non-negotiable, right? The end result, and I want you to actually think about that. Is your goal your non-negotiable? Meaning, and I don't care if it's volume, GCI, I don't care if it's vacation, a boat, or whatever it is. If that's the non-negotiable, that means the activities, let me back up. If that's the non-negotiable, it means the activities are negotiable. Does that make sense? What does that mean?
Do what it takes to get to your goal.
I'll do whatever it takes to get to my goal. Meaning, if my goal, I'll just say this, if my goal is to close one house in a week or take one listing in a week or whatever it is my goal is, it means that I may pick up the phone and call one person and get that appointment and list that one house, right? Yeah. I may not stop till I get to 200. However, here's the thing that I want you to leave with today is when you look at your business plan, knowing that the goal is the non-negotiable, it means the activity is the negotiable. Don't flip that. Don't write your business model in a way that the activity is the non-negotiable. Because if you'll negotiate with the activities, or if you'll not negotiate with the activities, it means the end result is negotiable. Everybody see the difference? So we have to be analyzing this market. That's why when team meetings and stuff, we talk about numbers, we talk about how many closed units, et cetera. The reason why is we have, by the way, definition of shift. Have days on market increased? Are there fewer offers on houses in a longer amount of time? It's the definition of a shift. You're there. Congratulations. It's the biggest gift and the best gift that the real estate market could ever give us because it's a big old slap in the face. Let's get to work now. Fair? There's no fear around it. I actually embrace it. I love it. It's pro time. Okay. Sorry, I got fiery Dan today, apparently. Had a little Mexican food last night and got a little spicy today. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, you're going to learn about getting started. By the way, was that a good fire up to get started? Yeah. We're going to talk about models. We're talking about models and mindset. Did we talk a little bit about mindset already? Yeah. Okay. By the way, I told you the name of that book if you want to read it. It's called The Power of One More.
It's on Audible. I just downloaded it. Get it.
You're ahead of me.
And I gotta be honest, I'm not finished reading it, so I can't tell you everything about it. But I want you to know, like, that's the mindset. The mindset is, and it's funny because on the video it says it. Shanna, you can attest to this. Shanna worked directly hand in hand with us for 6 years.
6.5.
I often said when she first came in, I'm not the smartest. I'm certainly not the most talented. Not the best looking, don't have but I will show up and I'll work every day and I will do one more every day. Yeah.
First one
I'll
in,
do
last
one more
out.
rep, first one in, last one out. I will do every rep all the time. I'm not saying work your fingers to the bone. What I'm saying is the end result is non-negotiable. Okay. That's mindset, right? We're going to talk today a lot about models.
Justin said that voice though.
Hi. Okay, so this is what's really exciting. These 4 models, by the way, there's a point here that says 5 models. I think they kind of incorporated models and mindset into being a model, but really when I grew up in KW, there was 4 core models, and that's what you're going to leave here with today. You're going to go through this exactly. By the way, these are in the red book. I challenge you to go back and read every single one of them. Who has read them all? Yeah, get your book and read it now. Okay, number 1, the economic model. Who wants to tell me what the economic model is?
Over here.
Outstanding. So today you're going to leave and you're going to know what the economic model is. The economic model is kind of what I said before. Knowing what outcome you want, you're going to know what activity to do. Fair? Mm-hmm. All right. If you want to reap X amount, you have to sow X amount. That's what it means. Do farmers get the same yield every year? What's it contingent on? Rain, fertilization, that kind of stuff, weather. The lead gen model, who wants to tell me what the lead gen model is? Kind of feeds into the top side of the economic model. Okay, budget model. Can I change the word, like not officially in the book, from budget model? Who loves the word budget? Because budget feels like what? Constrained. Can we call it a spending plan? Is that different? The model's called the budget model, but can we call it a spending plan? Does that sound more fun? Does that budget give us permission to spend money? Yes.
It does?
Yes, absolutely. Only up to amount though. But that's more fun. If you went to the mall, I'm looking at you, not assuming that you go to the mall, that's very sexist and stereotypical and chauvinist. But if you went to the mall and you had $100, if that was your budget, you would feel constrained. If that's what you got to spend, you'd feel more at liberty. That's what a budget is. I'll give you an example within the budget model. The budget model has a particular portion in it specifically for lead generation and marketing. Is that important in our businesses? If you didn't know what that budget was, would you just spend it however willy-nilly and maybe not end up with more a month at the end of your money? Yeah.
We got it.
Okay. And the organization model, who you hire, when you hire, how you know when to hire, in what order, and et cetera. Now, and then at the end, put it all together. I'm going to jump forward and put it all together. Are there other ways to do this than just by these models?
Sure.
Yeah. Have other people become successful in real estate doing, here's what Gary said. Like you remember there's a triangle, right? And what it shows is that by following and adapting, by the way, you'll not leave here with mastery in all four of these. But it'll hit you directly in the face which one you need to focus on leaving today. Now you'll leave with a holistic plan, but I really want you to leave here with one thing of, I've got to get that in alignment. Because by the way, none of these matter if you don't have a budget and you make no profit at the end of the year. Right? That doesn't matter. Then it doesn't matter. You can't do anything. You can't impact your family. You can't impact your community. You can't impact anybody else. And if you're hiring people completely out of whack, by the way, and I've seen it, they're not here now. I saw a team go from 1 agent to 18 agents in 7 months. And they were ripping and roaring. The whole thing completely collapsed and dumped upside down and fell apart and lost all the money. And everybody got mad and everybody was yelling at each other and everything. That wasn't me, by the way. That's what models do. That's why we have an org chart. So as you go through this, are there other ways to do it? Yes. When you look at the triangle, Gary spent the time writing this book and he interviewed, how many people did he interview? Do you remember? It was like the top 100 agents across the entire country. And what he found out is that there are other ways to do it. Matter of fact, when you look at the bottom of the triangle, he goes from 0 to like $1.5, $2 million. There's literally a million different ways to run this business. Yeah. No one got into the business because of the restraint and the structure. Fair?
Right.
Who got their real estate license first because they wanted a schedule, they wanted a time clock, and they wanted to follow a routine? Great. Yet what happened is that over time, as that 0 to 10 went from 2 to 4 million, 4 to 10 million, 100 million, 200 million, he found that really all the businesses looked exactly the same with very slight deviation. But essentially they foundationally look the same. They foundationally had the same budget. They foundationally had the same people. They foundationally follow the same lead generation and conversion models. So see at the bottom, sadly, he says in the book, it says there's 1 million ways to sell 0 to $2 million. There's literally a million different ways to run that business model. That's cool. That's E, right? I heard him say it about 2 months ago for the first time this way, and it changed it. Instead of saying there's 1 million different ways you can run that business, 0 to $2 million, he said there's 1 million ways to go broke between 0 and $2 million. This is what prevents that. We, as the market center, owe a fiduciary to the agent in this office. The fiduciary that we own is that we will create a platform and create a business plan and create an opportunity for you to go implement in your life. But guess who ultimately is the one responsible for implementing that? You are. The plan is here. You're going to leave with the plan, but only you can implement it. Yeah? Okay. I think something's wrong with my clicker.
You gotta use it. Okay. Are you pressing the button?
I am pressing the
Are you pressing the right button?
You're gonna go to the next one?
Yep.
Oh, look, it's working now. Look at that. Everybody give her a hand. Okay, so I'm gonna say 4 models. Don't yell at me. Understanding the power of the 4 models. We talked about that a little bit. You are gonna create your own business plan and you're gonna execute your own business plan. You see, when you look at the 4 models, I want you to write this down in your notes. After talking to agents literally all over the country, and some of you know that I'm the regional director in Illinois and Indiana also, and there's 4,300 agents there. By the way, we have 450 agents here, and we would be the second largest brokers in all of Illinois. Congratulations. But here's what I find. Everybody ultimately in any goal planning meeting, do you know the 2 things we can boil it all down to this. You know the 2 things they all consistently say that they want? It's either one of 2 things. I give $100 bonus, $100 bonus points to anybody in the room that can guess the first one. Yes.
They want to make more money, but they want to be able to work less.
Okay, 100 bonus points, they're worth nothing, they could be redeemed nowhere. Number 1, that's exactly right. Agents at the end of every consultation, they're looking for either one of 2 things, ultimately, either more time or more money. Now, go back to the models we just talked about. Does the economic model give you more time or more money? I'm gonna want you to write money next to that. Next to lead generation, what do you think gives you more time or more money? More money. Budget model, what does that give you? Money. And the organizational model, what do you think that gives you more of? Time. You could go back to economic model and probably put money and time. So you see, what you're gonna leave here today with is a business plan, but what it really, you know where sometimes we fail as leaders? It's not always about business. You see, sometimes what I would rather teach you to do is build a lifestyle model, and let's build a business plan that fits your lifestyle. So when you're sitting here today, whether you say I want more time or I want more money, you see that you're going to lead with a tool that can help you get more of that faster. See, sometimes when we teach holistically, we teach the 7th level and we assume everybody wants the same thing. Guess what? Everybody doesn't want the same thing. I could look at Kirk, I could look at Tim. They probably want different things. They're at different stages in their career, they're at different stages of their life. Their kids may be different ages, et cetera. Different things for different people at different times. But the beauty of these 4 models is that no matter where you're at, you can take one thing and implement it and give you more of what you want. See, it's not more of what we want. It's not more of what Shanna wants. It's not more of what Nicole wants. It's more of what you want. So you're going to leave with a business plan that's either going to give you more time or money. Sound good? That's it. That's all I wanted to share. Take notes, engage, learn. That's our goal. But ultimately, the goal is to help you build a lifestyle and a business plan that fits that lifestyle. Put those away. Okay, are you next, Shan? Can I introduce Shanna?
Okay. These are all my friends, though.
All right, but they don't know you. Do you all know her? Who knows her, knows her?
Put your hands down.
This is Shanna. I mean, this is actually Shanna, but I was going to describe Shanna also. Like if Shanna wasn't here, I would describe her. How would I describe Shanna? Shanna and I were introduced. Shanna's, can I do this? How long do you have? This doesn't cut into her time. This is Dan time
You
still.
have like 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
And-
Okay. So this is Shanna. By the way, Shanna worked for us, me, partners for like 6 months. 6 years, sorry. But she came back to us in like February after family reunion and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be a productivity coach because I have a heart and passion for that. See, she had been the director of sales on our team for really 4 years, and was an ISA before that. So this is where her heart and her passion is. And I promise you, we have detrimentally felt the impact of our team of her leaving, and it's for the benefit of everybody in this market center. I mean that. But our goal in life is always creating an avenue for people to get what they want in their life. Because see, if I hadn't made our world big enough, if Jen hadn't made her world big enough, we'd have fought to keep her and we wouldn't have created this opportunity for her. But this is where her heart was, right? But let's go all the way backwards.
Oh, gosh.
I first met Shanna, this is gonna be hard to believe, when I was doing CrossFit. Because you see, Shanna was a CrossFit coach. And Shanna wasn't a very nice CrossFit coach either. Was
That's a
she?
lie.
She was mean. And she would yell at you and she would count reps and she would hold you accountable to doing the things that you wanted to do. You see, do you really want a personal trainer to be nice to you? Or do you just want the results the personal trainer gets you? So that's really who Shanna is as a whole. Shanna then came to us. I would not hire her, by the way. Why would I not hire you?
Because my name ended in an A.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I had been through 5, 6 people I had hired who I then fired, whose last names ended in an A. And that was,
Here's what I found online.
I won't name them, but like if it rhymed with, well, anyhow. So think of all the names that end in A, because I don't want to name anybody. But yeah, it didn't work out good for me. So I almost didn't hire her, only over a superstition. Does anybody have superstitions? 100% I do. Yeah.
Don't split the pole.
Don't split the pole. What does that mean?
Walk in, there's like a pole or something.
Oh.
One person goes one side and the other, I do not.
I'll tell you this.
You're cheating, I'll walk around.
I never walk out a different door I walked in. Never. No one ever knew that. Never walk out a different door than you walked in. I know a lady told me that in her house. She goes, no, honey. Don't go out that door. Go out the front door. Don't ever leave at the same door you walked in. You know what's funny? Once I knew that, I can't unknow it. I don't know if it's true or not, but I don't want something bad to happen. You know, I never walk past a coin on the ground and don't pick it up. Never. Like I will, it just kills me. I worry about it all day long. Like what's gonna happen now? These are really dumb things that happen, but they're what
What
happen.
if it's a penny that's face down?
No, I pick them all up.
Can I
pick
tell you
them
what I
all
do with
up.
that? If it's face down,
You
I
kick
flip it
it?
over so that the next person that finds it has good luck.
I think every coin on the ground is actually a message. And I read this a long time ago. They said it's actually a message from God. And on it says, in God I trust. And at that point in time, there's a message that I didn't know it's that I need to trust today. That's why I pick up every coin that I see, because it's a message. And now once I know that it's a message, then I need to know something that day, pick it up. I cannot walk past it anymore. I cannot, because it just kills me.
Really?
Yeah. And names that end in A. Except Shanna trumped that. And that's who she is. When
And then
she
he
came-
hired a Monica, so.
and it's getting, I so
Now all
see,
A's are
some of this is
Monicas.
not true. Some of this is not true. Superstitions may not all be true, except the ones that are. Now,
Now that we've completely derailed this.
but this is who she was. She was working 3 jobs at the time. She was, what else were you doing?
Working on my master's
Working on her master's
and single mom in it.
and single mom in it. Raising 2 kids, working literally three full-time jobs. She was working 3. So I'm telling you, you'll not find a harder worker that cares more about her people. Here's the beautiful thing. Shanna's 100%, 120% in on the people that are in with her. She's still in with other people, but she's 120% on the people that are in with her. Shanna loves in a really big way. She's also, her nickname, by the way, on the team for a long time was Gator. Because Gators just sit there and they do this with their eyes right here. And when the time's right, they go, get to work.
That was my pimpin' name.
I know.
Your pimping name?
Yeah, because as an ISA, sometimes that's what you feel like. You feel like you're pimping your agents, like,
Yep.
I just got you this lead, you go out there and you sell it, and you bring it back to me, like, so then they started calling me Gator.
So I just want to say that for those that
Thank you. I
didn't know
really
her.
appreciate that. I'm very embarrassed now, and I'm like, how do I?
Good, then I've done my second job.
All right. Thank you, Dan Hope.
Now,
All right, let's give it up for Dan Hope. Now that y'all know my personal business, let's get into this. Okay, so models and mindset. Let's start with, somebody tell me what a model is. I'm very interactive, guys, so I'm not just gonna sit here and talk at you. I cannot stand that. So, Kirk, tell me what a model is.
It's an established process that you can follow that can be duplicated.
Yes, very simple, simply said, right? So with models, you imitate, you assimilate, and then you innovate, okay? So as we're looking at these 2 triangles, the stable model is built on a solid foundation, so it shouldn't be going anywhere, right? And the unstable one, gosh, who knows where it's gonna go. So with this, you start with models, then you add creativity. if you start with creativity and then you try to add the models, things get a little bit wonky, right? So what you have to realize is sometimes you may not have earned the right to be creative just yet. You've got to nail those initial foundations down. You've got to get the models and understand. So as Dan mentioned, I've been, December, I'll be here 7 years. And I heard all about models, obviously living under Dan Holt, right? I'm like, what is a model? Like, what are we talking about? Like runway? Like, what is this? I had no clue. Tried to read the red book, completely over my head and just super overwhelming. Has anybody ever felt like that coming into real estate? Let me see those hands. Yeah, for sure, right? So I just realized what a model was the other day, so don't worry, time will come. Totally kidding. But it's really important, and I want you to realize that you will not be the master of all these models today, but you're gonna have a much clearer understanding. And when you practice them and read about them and see them, then it becomes clearer and clearer. So being learning based is so important here because not just the industry itself changes all the time, but you are in a different space and you learn things differently and you hear things differently. So I don't know how many times I've heard about the economic model and one day it just clicked. And I was like, oh, that makes sense now. Now I know what to do, right? We just went through it in one of our coaching classes and it was very clear to the people that did it that they understood it and they were like, oh, I only need to do one appointment a week to get my goal. I now have all this time back, right? So as we're working through, as we're working through, we all hit a personal ceiling of achievement, right? And if we first adapt those foundational models, then we get to break through. So when I first saw this, I didn't quite understand what this all meant, but your natural ability takes you so far, right? Like I'm good at soccer at 9 years old, like I'm a star. And then at some point, people catch up to my natural ability, right? So then I kind of take a turn down and then I base on those foundational models, right? In real estate, we've got them all written out here, but maybe in soccer, maybe I need to do some more drills, more foot skills, things like that, right? So we adopt those foundational models and then boom, we break through. Once you've adopted those models is when you can then be creative, right? Then you can start thinking outside of the box and thinking bigger and being bigger, but only after you've started with those solid foundations. And then you improve your models after you've been creative, right? You improve them and then boom, you break through again, creativity comes, improve models, breakthrough, right? If you don't adapt to those models, you're just gonna be stuck hitting that natural ability wall, right? I like people, I wanna talk to people, I'm gonna be a great agent. But if I don't practice my craft, if I don't learn about it, and if I don't use the models that have been gifted by Gary, then really how far am I gonna get with that, right? Right? Yeah, okay, there we go. All right, so, but actually before we go here, let me ask you guys this. Outside of the two examples, one being real estate and my soccer, this is not my soccer story in case you were wondering. Where have you looked and found and followed models before? Anything in personal life? Amy?
Well, I did hair for 12 years. I mean, every single day you're following patterns and models because you're creating designs and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again every single time. Or you're tweaking it a little bit, but it's all about the pattern. So that's one thing. But then also I created a system of how I marketed every single client after I did them. And that's what ultimately grew my business. And I also had a pattern where once I filled up all my time, I added 2 more hours to my schedule. I filled up that time consistently. I added 2 more hours to my schedule until it eventually grew into the dollar amount that I wanted it to without having to sit at my chair empty all day long.
So does that sound like she had natural ability and then adapted models and then was able to be creative and then carry her business further? That's what it sounds like to me. All right, now we can move on. All right, so now that you understand the importance of models, we're gonna move towards the mindset part. And don't worry, guys, you're gonna get plenty of model talk all day long today. So the first thing about mindset is a lot of times fear will get in our own way. And then we get these things called limiting beliefs. And it's normal, don't worry. But when these things happen, we really stall out our business, right? Because we're hooked on some kind of myth, right? So some kind of myth would be, I don't need models. Models will limit my freedom. Models are just opinions. Models won't work for me. I don't need to change. I'm getting the results I want. Do those sound like truths or myths? They're myths. I'm just going to tell you, they're myths. Because models are actually going to set you free, right? They're going, if you create a system, just who was here yesterday when Adam was talking during team meeting, right? He wanted freedom. So then he created systems and models that he follows to this day. And he's pretty uber successful, wouldn't you agree? And it was all about, just like how Dan just said, it's about the models and the systems that you put together based on your goals and where you want to go, okay? So just remember back to the slide, the triangle, stable versus unstable. Which one do you want? Stable, yay! Okay, so when I was saying some of these limiting beliefs, I don't need models, I'm happy with the way I'm going, I just want my freedom, I want to do it my way, I want to blaze my own trail, I'm adding a few in case you didn't notice. Who feels like I'm talking directly to them? Yeah. I was reading this, I was like, oh my God, that's me. So totally normal. All right, so let me ask this. Anybody ever feel like when you say the limiting belief out loud, it sounds absolutely ridiculous? Yeah, that's me 100%. Anybody want to share one of those aha moments of like, I just said it out loud and now I feel like a complete idiot for that's the reason I'm not doing something? Tim, I know you got one.
Oh, no, I've never felt like a complete idiot for not doing something. What is my limiting belief? My limiting belief really probably is that I can survive on my talent and do everything I want to and achieve the goals in a much shorter time than I'm actually achieving them. Yeah.
I get that. I totally get that. Let me ask you this. Do you think it matters how you think about your business?
I think it matters if you think about your business.
Well, yeah. But how about how you think about your business? Do you think that
Sure.
matters?
Sure.
Anybody else think that matters? Right, so that's the mindset piece right there. So just as important as removing the limiting beliefs and the doubts from yourself, that mindset's got to be right on. Who remembers what the title of chapter 1 of Shift is? Get real, get right, right? Like your mind. Start with your mindset and then everything else will follow. So to be successful, we must think like successful people. So who would like to actually be a millionaire real estate agent? I would. I want to be a millionaire PC, okay? So then I need you guys to be millionaire agents. So when we're talking about these, what is this, 9? Yeah, 9 different models. We've got the 3 foundational models at the top, and then we've got these supportive ones down here. And today, during my 30 minutes left with you, we're going to talk about 1, 2, and 5. And they are think powered by a big why, think big goals and big models, and think value and customer experience. So that last one is a new one, number 5, because they're learning based and they're ever evolving. They're constantly interviewing new people and finding out new things. Oh my goodness, excuse me. All right, so we're gonna move right into the big why. Let me see your sheet. What's your sheet look like? Should be the next page, your big why sheet. There it is. If you guys could turn to your big why sheet. All right, so it's big because you want an extraordinary result, right? And the why is why you get up every single day. So big why powers your big life. Does that make sense? Okay. I'd never heard of a big why before. I always kind of knew what I was doing, right? Like as Dan spilled my dirt, I had 3 jobs, going back to school and raising 2 kids. I had a huge big why, right? My kids. I wanted to give them the life that I wanted to give them. So your big why is it's your purpose, it's your mission. This is a hard job. It's not easy, right? It's simple. We know that it's a simple thing that we have to do. Talk to people, get them in houses, sell houses, right? Pretty simple, but it's hard work. And so if I'm getting up every single day and doing that, I gotta have like a big motivating factor, right? And people have a lot of little whys that can then turn into a big why. And it's also okay for your whys to change over time. Do we think that my why when I joined almost 7 years ago is the same as my why today? Heck no. My kids are happy. We have a great house. I work one job. It's fantastic. So we're going to spend a little time talking about like what your big why is. And I'm going to give you guys a hint. It's never the money. It's never about the money, because I could go make money at a different job that doesn't fill my bucket and doesn't fill my big why, and I'm not going to be happy, right? So sometimes you've heard of people who like switch jobs and they take huge pay cuts because they know the benefit will come and the happiness will come, right? Because I'm not one of those people that I'll be happy when. By the way, if you've not read Sean Akers' book, Happiness Advantage, please pick it up today. It's really good. Didn't know you guys were getting book club today, did you? Really, really good. Spoke at family reunion last year. And that's part of the reason, along with other things, that I came to Dan. I was like, Dan, this is my passion. This is where I want to go. I want to go be the PC. He's like, you're leaving me to go then be with me? And I was like, yeah. It's like, okay, I guess I can do that. So my big why. So currently, as you know, my big why to come was to spend more time with my family, right? Like I was burning it at both ends. I had literally nothing left. One of my jobs was I was working at an elementary school as the computer lab teacher, which if anybody knows me, knows that that's a ridiculous job for me because I am not tech, but I can teach Control Alt Delete all day long. So it was totally fine. And I also had to cover the ISA room and the lunchroom, which absolutely killed my soul. It just crushed me. And then I would come home to my kids and have zero patience left over. Oh yeah, by the way, also working on a master's in the online program and personal training on the side. Oh, and don't forget that I also worked at Panera nights and weekends just to have enough money to support the 2 kids I had at home. And that's not for you guys to be like, oh gosh, oh. No, this is real life, right? Like these are your clients. This story is your clients. The story is maybe you or the next person that you decide to bring into the organization and change their world, right? So my big why today is hugely different. And my job, I see such big potential with being a productivity coach here because of the agents and the culture that we have here. I've got huge goals for that. And one of my big whys is so that my husband can quit his job and do something he really wants to do. He's a successful physical therapist in town, but that job is just literally killing his soul too, right? And so for me, his happiness matters. And so I want to create enough for our whole family to survive. That's a pretty darn big why, wouldn't you agree? And it's gonna take a lot of hard work to get there. So I'm gonna have to have a plan to get there, right? Okay, so you've got 2 minutes. I want you to start thinking about your big why, because good and good enough aren't enough. Think big. What is the reason you get up every single day and come and do this work? 2 minutes.
Right.
And you can't steal mine.
I'm not gonna look for your husband's dreams, so it's okay. That's your job.
Right. Well, your wife or husband, right? No, that's mine.
So.
All right, start wrapping it up. All right, so I would love to have a volunteer to share their big why. I was vulnerable. I think you guys should be too. Yes, sir.
So I really have three main goals that I need to get to, and it has to do with where I'm at in my life, my age, my kids' age. My kids are 18, 15, and 12. So just starting to enter college with them. My wife does work with me, but she kind of has that freedom, right? She can go do whatever she wants to. She handles contract to close, and if she's not around, I can do that. So I've gotten a lot of my big whys out of the way in the past 5 years too. So what's next, right? As I watch my kids follow their dreams, I realize that they're not very financially rewarding dreams, right? And I see the Panera and the physical therapy and those avenues to get some money to support their lives while they follow their dreams. I would rather that they make a lot of money instead of hourly. I believe that if I can build a good, solid lead generation company and they can partake in that in the roles that they are interested in and make 10 times the amount of money they would that. Also, passive income stream through investment properties, right? I mean, how are you going to retire? What are you going to do with your money? The stock market's crashed right now, right? But the rental houses are higher rents than they've ever been, and they've gone up 30% in the last 3 years. So to expand on that, and the whole point of that is, as my kids grow up, I want to be able to travel to see them and create and follow my own little whimsical dreams.
I love that. So do we think if he revisits those whys on a daily basis, he's then got the motivation to carry through with the activities that support that? I would think so. Kirk, I saw your hand up. I know, hard to follow.
There are 17 people in my life that I would like to be able to take care of all their financial and all their needs. And at the exact same time, be able to give that exact same amount of money away to whatever cause, charitable organization, church, insert people that need help there. So that's my why, is to get to the point where all that's taken care of automatically through passive income to be able to accomplish those two goals.
Love it.
My new one now is to be his 18th person.
Come on.
Oh,
You got friends and family for them.
I've got, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Kurt. I have 6 kids. My wife and I do this together. She's got parents, I have parents. We've got a grandfather that's 91. I've got a father that, my biological father. I've got, oddly enough, my wife's ex-husband's parents are on that list also, as well as some cousins and nieces and nephews. That comprises my list of 17. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I do what I do.
Big why. All right, very cool, guys. I'm going to encourage you to rip this page out and put it somewhere that you have to look at it every day, right? Goals are nothing if you just write them down one time and you never look at them again. Okay. So second mindset is think big goals and big models. Okay. So anything great in life was the result of thinking bigger and aiming bigger and higher, right? So a lot of us will be sandbaggers and set small, tiny, achievable goals and be like, "Yay, I'm a winner," right? No, your goals have to be bigger, because what happens is, think about like a race, right? Like a quick 100-yard dash. Well, maybe longer, like 400 meters, something like that. And you're running and you see that finish line and you start to slow down as you approach that finish line, right? Because you're like, I made it, I'm good. My water's waiting for me on the other side. And then what can happen while you're slowing down is that next person comes and blows past you, right? Because maybe that next person's goal was bigger. It wasn't the finish line, it was the end of the fence. And so they just kept running, right? So that analogy makes me think like, okay, you got to set the goal higher. I used to not want to set these higher goals because if I didn't hit them, it was devastating to me because I hate to lose. Oh my God, right? Some of us love to win, some of us hate to lose. I am 100% hate to lose, cannot stand it. And to me, if I don't hit that goal, I've been lost. But what I've neglected was, while I was reaching for the moon, I hit the stars. I actually know which one's closer. If you want to correct me on that, that's totally fine. But I want you guys to think really big. So they give us, if you go to the next page, there's a big old mountain there. And they give us this example that when you have these big goals that stretch, you should feel stretched like a rubber band. If it's not scary, it's not big enough. If it's like I set this goal because I know I can get it. Are you really doing yourself any favors? No way, right? So imagine that you decide to climb a mountain and you want to climb a 14er, right? So you go and your goal is Mount Whitney in California, which is 14,494 feet. But your target is Mount Everest. And that one is 29,000 feet, okay? So by setting Mount Everest as your target, you ensure that you know all the systems and skills necessary to pull you through your climb to Mount Whitney very easily, right? That's your practice. The truth is, if you set your path towards climbing Everest and you only get halfway up the mountain, you'll still be in the top 1% of the highest mountaintops in the world. So is that something you should be like sad about? Or like, wow, okay, always striving to be 1% better, okay? When you set big goals, they're going to open the door for the career worth having, the life worth living, the legacies worth leaving, okay? So when we look at this, Gary says you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years, right? So when we set that someday goal, that sounds absolutely ridiculous. And then we have to go ahead and then set other goals that basically chunk it down to make it a reality, right? So if your desire is to net $1 million, that's your someday goal, then your 5-year goal better be real big, right? And then your 1-year goal has to fund your lifestyle and pay your bills and get you out of debt or any kind of precarious situation you may so find yourself in, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes to just start working through your someday goal. Start at the top, which is your crazy someday goal. And I think those of you who are in bold heard Darren say, if your someday goal doesn't get laughed at, it's not big enough. I would never laugh at your goal. I'd be like, great, and how? How are we gonna get there? So, and then one of you, I'm gonna make share.
No. Yes. Tell her everything I'm facing. Sure.
So when I wrote this down in bold, when I was going through this and I sent it to my coach, my maths coach, he challenged me to make my someday goal my 5-year goal, which then terrified me. But that's my path now. It's been set in motion. I said it out loud to where people could hear me. And then my very best friend, anybody who's in coaching knows, she came in and took a picture of my thing so that she could hold me accountable to it without me ever telling her or knowing, right? Have somebody like that in your corner. And I'm not going to make you guys share all of the goals, but I want to hear a couple different people's someday goals. Go ahead and raise your hand when you want to tell me your someday goal. Dallas. Yeah, you made eye contact. Oh, no. Give me your someday goal.
My someday goal. All right. This is, I know a lot of you people don't know me, but this is going to be a full, honest, like barrier down. My someday goal is to break out of the generational poverty for the family I build.
That's an awesome goal. Yes. Good stuff, Dallas. You can get there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now you have that. And maybe that's part of your big why too.
It is.
Yeah.
And now I'm never going to make eye contact with you again.
The bartender, right? Like you go and they want to make eye contact with you because they don't want to serve you yet. And I'm like, I know you see me. You have that peripheral. Okay. Anybody else want to share that someday goal? I know it's kind of personal, but this is the vault. It's safe here, except, you know, it's also streaming. So I don't know.
I came up with this idea in bold. I want to be able to tip $1,000 frequently, often, and without hesitation to random people. I just want to do that as much as possible. It'd be
I
fun,
would love to
right?
be able to person in your life.
You know, it'd just be fun to be able to change the waitress's world. You know, I do that on paydays. Whenever I close a closing, I will go tip the bill, and it's so much fun. And so I really just love. I would love to do that.
I like that.
Closing day, just go tip $1,000. It's really cool.
That sounds pretty cool. Do you think that $1,000 is going to make a huge impact on somebody's world? Huge, right? Like, yeah. Anybody else before we move on? Okay,
I think Cameron needs to share.
Cameron, you don't. I don't make people share unless we make direct eye contact. So, sorry, you're off the hook, Cam. Okay, so the last one, think, action, and accountability, right? So basically, once you have your plan, you got to execute it, right? Take action, get into the activity. So to focus on a goal can get really boring, right? Like I've got this one goal, it's boring, it's mundane, I am now in a routine, and it's easy to get sidetracked and lose your focus during that, right? So you've got to hold yourself accountable to staying focused on your task. And when often it's hard, right? Because some people are like, yeah, I'm really great I'm a self-driver and I'm great at accountability. Who here feels like they rock it on solo accountability? Like I can do anything on my own. Like you don't need anybody to hold you to it because.
To what though? I guess to what end? Which goal?
Depends on which one.
If it's a work goal, then I don't need anyone, no, at all. And I say that just in the sense of it's easy for me to get up and go to work, call or do whatever. Do the things that I need to do because I feel that it's selfish if I don't. So if I don't do the things that I need to do to create the income that I need to create for my family, I can't reach my goal. So it's selfish. And all I got to do is send some text messages. Like literally, that's it.
It's so simple, right?
So-
Like it's so simple, which this is what kills, it doesn't kill me because I wouldn't have a job if people
Sure.
didn't need accountability, but it's so simple, but yet.
I simplify it too. I just have to send some text messages, right? I have to have conversations that are meaningful and purposeful. But simplify it down to I just have to make a phone call and dial a number. You know, there's more to it than just that. But yeah.
Right, but that speaks into so many people's limiting belief, right? Because it is so easy to do the task. Oh, I'm sorry, simple. It's so simple to do the task, but we make it out.
Sorry,
scary
the
monster.
task is simple. It's not simple to do the task. The task is simple. So, in my opinion, it's the accountability is the hard part for yourself, right? So that's why we have coaches and all of these other things and her to get up my butt and whatever else. But yeah, the task is simple. The activity of doing it and the motivation level to do it is not simple. But get yourself out of the way.
So lose the limiting beliefs, and if you're not like Brian, find an accountability person or something big enough that makes you drive every single day, right? That's what the big goals are. That's what the one thing is. That's what all of that is. All right, so individuals with written goals are 42.1% more likely to achieve them. So would you say that it's important to write these things down? Okay. Individuals that have accountability are 77.6% more likely to achieve them. If I write my goal down and I find a coach, a partner, a peer, anything like that to just hold me to the fire when I'm feeling like I'm losing focus or getting lazy, I'm going to be 77.6% more likely to hit said goals. Okay, so we set goals, we do activity, we measure results, evaluate, make adjustments. Big circle, and we go round and round and round, right? So accountability is an empowering process that's got continued focus. It picks up where the time blocking may leave off, right? So time blocking is a super great way to hold yourself accountable unless you're not looking at the calendar and you're not doing it, right? So that's where that accountability comes in. Are you going to do the things that are on your calendar? Gary says nobody succeeds alone, right? So even though Brian has a very driven path, he knows what he's got to do, he's not alone in that because he's got a family support behind him, right? That's also helping motivate and push him through. So in the notes section, I'd love for you to write down who's holding you accountable.
Can I add something it's something I heard or read at one point, and I've used it a bunch of times, but it was Jordan Peterson said this and it stuck with me. Motivation is directly proportional to the willingness to expand energy to reach a goal. So what's your willingness to reach your goal? That's your motivation level.
I'm so glad you're in this class. That's super powerful. It is, right? Like, what's going to get in your way? The only thing that should stop you is you. There should be no other reason that you don't hit your goal. And if you're one of those people that need that extra help, then by all means, there's plenty of help here. Look around the room. Get a script partner, get an accountability partner, find a coach, find somebody that you strive to emulate.
right? Yes. You made me panic last week when you said, what more can I do for you? Because I was like, I need you, I need the account, I need the people, I need the things, because I will, meet my goals, but I will limit myself and not think bigger than that. And so I'll be like, okay, well, I'm on track to meet this, so that's fine. And I won't push for what's next or what's, blah, blah, blah. So for me, it's combo both. Like, yes, I can meet my goals, but I still need all the people to make sure that I'm thinking bigger than what I limit myself.
Well, what's super cool about this room is each one of you is unique, right? None of us are the same. You're all unique. You've all got different needs, goals, dreams, aspirations. And so, but we have a common goal here, right? The best darn real estate company in town. All right. Very cool. All right. So as we're talking about accountability, there's a couple tools that are at your disposal, right? The 411. Somebody tell me what it is. It's on your next page. You literally got a definition. Anybody? Yes, right? So basically it's taking that 1 year goal, which is written down somewhere, to then get you to your 5 year and your big someday goal. And then you break it down to what things have to be done. And it's not a to-do list, it's a must-do list. Because these things have to get done in order for that big goal to hit, because we are not negotiating that big goal. That is important enough. If you wrote it down, if you thought about it, it's important, right? And then you have a coach or an accountability partner, it should be important to them to hold you to it if you wrote it down, okay? So this can also be a centerpiece of accountability and focus. A 411 is something you can totally do on your own, but it usually works best when coupled with like a consultative relationship, right? Somebody who's just going to be objectively like, did you not? What stood in your way? What are you going to change to make sure that happens next time, right? You're going to be able to build your 411 after all these models are learned. What I think is kind of important about the 411 is I went on my first family vacation because I put it on a 411. It wasn't even in my, as you know, where I come from, right? Like rubbing my two pennies together, where am I going to go? Backyard. So I put it on my calendar and I put it on my sheet, and I had metrics that I had to hit because I had an accountability partner, and we went to Disney, and it was so much fun and it was great. But for me, I had it on there, and then I had to tell somebody, I had to say it out loud, and I had to say it to my kids. And then if I didn't do the activities that were required for me to get there, I'd had to tell my son and my daughter, hey, mom sucks. I didn't feel like focusing on my goals that day, so we're not going. Wow, that would have been a really tough conversation that I'm not willing to have. So I put it on there. I found somebody to hold me to it, and I went, and it was a blast. It was really fun. They still talk about it today. On the next page, there's a second 411 tool. This one I really like, and I like to use. I used it when I was director of sales on Dan's team because it's annual, job, business, financial, and then personal, right? Because when we coach to people, we coach the whole person. That personal part is just as important as the job and the business and everything else, because that part funds what our personal wants and dreams and goals are, right? So I want you to think, if you don't have that person that you wrote down, who can you start to reach out to hold you accountable to these things? Is it the person you're sitting right next to today? Is it somebody at TV? Oh, yeah, I don't know. Do you want Ross, Tim? I don't know. Oh, goodness. Okay. So what's another accountability tool that's not mentioned on the 411 that we give you here at Phoenix? It's a system. It's a techie system. Starts with a C. Oh my gosh, yes, it's Command. Okay, so Command is also another tool, right? That is there to help you be at the center of your business, to help you to leverage off different tasks like emails and texts and different things. And it can hold you accountable if you utilize it to its full capacity, right? Because you can put in your net goals, you can put in, your closings are in there, and it can track how many dials and how many, your conversions and all that great stuff. It's all right there for you if that's the way you see it, right? So accountability works, but you've got to see it through the lens that in goal planning works, but you, again, see it through the lens that you see things. If I'm not a tech person, maybe I need to write it down. I do, that's neat. All right, so, and anybody using Command to that capacity in this room right now? Can you tell me a little bit about it? Like what that does for you when you use it to that that level?
It just frees up my life because I'm not texting the people and not emailing the people. It's just automatically.
Right there. So the foundational model, oh, look, it's another triangle with a good stable bottom to hold itself up, right? So who's seen this before? 3 L's, right? We all should have seen it. We all should have seen it. So to be successful, you need leads. If you focus on your listings, that will free up time, it'll give you more money, and it creates a whole lead gen platform for you then to create buyers. And then you've got leverage. That's the time versus money piece. And I just want to remind you guys, leverage isn't always people. It starts with tools and systems first, and then the people come later. So right here, you see my business plan will. All right, so it should give you clarity, and it should remove some of that guesswork. So your answers really should be yes to all of these things. Is there anybody who feels like any 1 through 7 aren't a yes? No, yeah, okay, so they're pretty much yeses, right? So do we think that having a business plan might be a valuable thing? Yeah. Okay, so these 5 models work together. Now, the expansion model down at the bottom, I don't believe we're going to be touching on that today. It's basically once you've really mastered and the first 4, then you can talk about the expansion model, which you could talk to Adam or Dan or somebody like that, or I'm sure we'll teach a class on it here. But they work together. They're not separate. You can't cherry pick which models you want to follow. Like if you want the success, you got to do them all. And they do go in order. They go economic to lead gen, to budget, to organization, right? We're going to move around a little bit today because of some time constraints, but you know, creating your business plan and perfecting these models is the first step to that sustainable business. I'm not going to go into each one of these because, you know, Dan kind of did that, but all right, we've got 2 minutes left. I want you guys to go to your aha section and I want you to write down an aha. If I gave you no ahas, I'm very sorry. I'm very, very sorry. We can talk about it later. I'll cry. It'll be great. But write down some ahas. And then this is where the accountability comes in. Put some action steps in there and then check it off when you complete it. I like checking off lists. It makes me feel happy. Look at me, Nicole, I'm on time. I'm so proud of you. Did you see I started talking faster? I'm like, okay. Come on. Oh. All right. Give me some ahas.
One person literally.
I know, he's like, this was the worst 40 minutes of my life. Okay, he's in coaching, he would have here.
Dallas's why was just
Hmm?
awesome. Dallas's big why was just awesome.
It was, wasn't it?
It's probably one of the best I've ever heard, man. Like, I appreciate it. Man. I'll probably talk to you about it the next 3 times we talk.
I tell you what
Sounds
is
good.
cool is that when you interact in the class, that's some of the bigger ahas you get versus what the teacher's presenting. Sure, there should be some stuff here that's like, oh yeah, that's good. Most of you guys have probably heard most of this, right? But it's a good reminder most of the time.
Like the guy over here that won't let me be his 18th person. But like, he's got 6 kids. I'm like, we've got 6 kids. He's doing it with his wife. I'm doing my wife. Like, you know, what's the odds? You know?
In real estate, somewhat likely, but yeah. Any other ahas? Make me feel good about myself, guys. Come on. Yes, sir.
So something that I've been thinking about for a long time that Blake has texted me a while back, we're getting there eventually to where I'll figure this thought out. But he said to me that it's easier to be busy than not be busy. You said something here and about that similar thing, and implementing a model would help those, right? So it's easier. So I wrote down it's easier to deal with the current pain because it is easier than to implement a system or a model to get rid of it. So that's an aha for me.
You guys all hear that? How many other people kind of feel that way too? It's easier. I can just do it this way. It's fine. It's going to be harder to start over and do the system. Cool.
Thank you.
Yes.
Setting goals that people will laugh at. You know, it's so true. And Grant Cardone wrote a 10X book. It's simply that. You set a goal that's like astronomical and you're working as hard as you can to get that. Right? You don't hit that goal, right? you fall short of it, it's better to fall short on the goal of 100 million than it is to fall short on the goal of 100,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, it's that moon star thing. Again, if somebody can tell me which one's closer, I'd love to know. Awesome. Any other ahas? Yes,
I can't say exactly what you said that triggered it, but several things that I tell myself came to mind that I wasn't seeing as a limiting belief, and now I realize that they are. One of those things that I say is money comes in and money goes out. In my mind, I'm always thinking, it's cool, this money can go out because more is going to come in. But I'm also telling myself that money is going to go back out. And I also tell myself that I always will have exactly what I need. I'll always have just enough. But I don't allow myself to believe that I'll have abundance. And so while we were sitting here, I wrote some new affirmations so that I can change the way I say those things to myself.
that's super cool too, right? Because good and good enough is not enough, right? Creating an income that just covers your 4 walls isn't enough, right? Because you're here because you want to have that life, that legacy, that career, right? Like you don't want to get up every day and go work a job, right? You want to have something bigger that you're going for. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, that was all my time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Shake your wiggles out, use the bathroom, grab some water.
We also have fresh coffee. Well, Blake is situated. I'm giving you 2 minutes.
St. Generous.
So take it out. We've been sitting for an hour. Thanks, Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
Jimmy John.
Thank you.
It's good, they're quick. I didn't know. I was gonna call the catering company. I was like, yes, that's right there. I think everyone's afraid of the second row. Don't know why.
You're afraid of the second? Oh,
Well,
everybody.
look at it. There's nobody sitting in the.
Well, he moved to the second.
Well, then everyone should have shifted one.
Well, and Blake, are you gonna do that to them now?
Yeah.
Blake usually makes them.
Yeah, everyone move up.
I'll be loud, I promise. Okay, is everybody plugged in or ready to roll? Who here has their laptop that has plenty of charge on it? Got one person, two, all of you guys move on up closer. 'Cause I've got a whiteboard that I'm using. I want you guys to be able to see it. So if you're not using an outlet, come on up. 100%. 100% trick. So like the first 3 rows, if we can put the first 3 rows, that'd be great. Really and truly, I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna start off, it's gonna be miserable.
I do that.
At least it wasn't your coffee, you tried to slide up there.
Dustin said that you look like Gary Keller.
That's cool.
Wait, I think he's talking about your attire.
Oh, this is what I totally do.
I don't think you met your face. I think he meant financially. You
I'll
look
take
like.
it.
In the thread.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Jeez. All right, now we're rocking and rolling. So there's a lot of faces in here that I don't know.
I'm Dallas.
Hi, Dallas. I'm Blake. Ross, I'm Blake. I was gonna go around and have everybody. They put a big timer over here, so it's like you can just know exactly how little time I have. So I actually have an hour and a half to talk about budgets today. Who here has budgets or likes budgets? You did it so shyly, like I don't. So one person has a budget, likes the budget. Is there anybody else? No. Okay, very cool, sweet. We're not going to spend an hour and a half talking about budgets because that's a lot of numbers and it's just a lot of stuff to deal with it. And it's just a lot to take in. But I wanted to kind of start off with something when it comes to the business clinic, and I think it's cool that you guys are here. Because when I first came to KW, I did not plug into these things. I did not come to, especially if I would have saw the budget model, I would have been the first person to be like, yeah, I got a phone call, listing shoot, a marketing shoot for listing, so I gotta go. And I would like dip out as fast as I could. But in 2019, I then won Rookie of the Year for the Tri-County area. Write all this stuff down. 2020, 2021, I was the productivity coach here at KW. 2021, I was Associate of the Year. In 2022, ALC member. I have a real estate team, which last year we finished number 4 in the building, so 150 units. My production has increased almost double every year, except for this year. My wife and I also invest in real estate. We have 17 doors. We have an Airbnb that we just started, and she just quit her job 2 months ago. So she is now optionally employed, which is really cool. She works because she wants to. And I'm saying all this stuff. A, so you can listen to me because I kind of know what I'm talking about. And B, I got plugged in here because in 2018, the number one thing that I was focused on was my kill to death ratio on Call of Duty. And I'm not joking. Like that was the thing that I spent the most time trying to figure out. So there's really nothing special here. Besides the fact that I'm willing to be wrong and I'm willing to learn. And so in this class, for all people that moved up, if you're willing to be wrong, you're willing to move forward, you're willing to learn, you can take a lot out of today. And I'm talking about accountability, and I hate how fast we have to go because Shanna is incredible. If you're looking for accountability, really look into the productivity program. It's not just for new agents. She's doing a really good job with it. She will help you guys be accountable to the things that you guys want to do. And that's the whole point of this entire thing. So thanks for coming. Thanks for being here because it really can change everything that you need to do. Let's see here. And the people in this building. I've done a lot in 4 years and none of it was my own idea. I didn't create anything new. There was no secret sauce. It was me knocking on doors of everyone in this building. Tim, you've been around a minute. You know, there's some powerful people in this building and you just need to go knock on their doors. It's that simple. If you're having a bad day and you don't know what to do, you can knock on my door. I'm like above the lobby. We're right up there. Just knock on the door. My entire team will sit down and be like, what do you need to do today? Like that is how we all got going. So just don't be afraid to just come in and get started when you need to get started. Just be accountable to something. And that's your big why that you talked about. That's all those things. The budget is how you get there. So Amy, you said that your money comes in, money goes out. And I guess Dan said budgets are constricting, which that's tough because Dan's a big guy. Budgets are living and breathing, guys. Like they're not static things. You should be checking them all the time. And there's several moments where they're going to prompt me to say that because it makes total sense. You should check it weekly, you should check it quarterly, and you should check it yearly. I mean, you create a budget at the beginning of the year so that you know what you need to do to achieve the things that you want to do. Like that makes sense. We can all sit down and do that. And then stuff gets in the way. So then you're trying to figure out, okay, well, I wasn't hold myself accountable this week. So I didn't have this many sales. So I didn't do this. So the income wasn't great. And we all just kind of like kick the budget under the rug. Just adjust it. Just go in and change it. Change the percentages, which we'll get into. I'm a big profit first guy. That's not what this class is. This class is a little different. So I've had to kind of change some of the vernacular that I normally use so we can kind of stay in the KW lingo. But if you guys have trouble with budgets or you are trying to figure out how to run your business like a business, like this is my name and phone number, call me. It might take 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get on the calendar, but I'll take the time because it's a big deal. Who here owns a car? And not like outright, it's not a trick question. Like who here has a car? I'm waiting to see like who's not going to raise their hands and be like, you ride a bike or something? Did everybody raise their hand? Good job. Why did you guys buy a car? What's the purpose of your car?
To haul children.
Transportation, it's places, like it's to take you somewhere or to take someone somewhere to get to a place to go from point A to point B, right? What do you have to have in your car?
Gas.
To make it go? Gas. What happens if you run out of gas? You don't go. You just don't go anywhere. It doesn't do what it's intended to do. And so who in here runs their business like a business? Look how honest you guys are. You're afraid or you're super honest? So what's the purpose of your business? right? Because we can all agree that the purpose of your car is not to buy fuel. You didn't go out and buy a car so you could buy gas. Because the purpose of your car is to go out and take you places. So you can do things with it. You can take your kids. You can go from point A to point B. But your car has to have fuel, right? So if we were just taking a guess, trying to finish where I was going with this, what would the fuel of your business be? Money.
Sales.
Cash money, sales is how you get it. What happens if you run out of money?
Shut up.
It's very real, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. It's not like, oh, I don't get to play anymore. You gotta go get a job. You gotta go work for somebody else. You gotta go spend your time with other, like, it's not your time anymore. You've lost the ability to have access to your own time. It's because you ran out of fuel. And like, somebody said this to me the other day, and I was like, that's really cool. Money is important or money is everything. It can't be both, but it has to be one of them. So does everybody in this room know that making money is okay? Like making a shit ton of money is okay? It's totally fine. What you do with it matters. So what's the purpose of your business? Because if the purpose of a car is not to buy fuel, take you somewhere, the purpose of your business is to not make money. Your business should make money because it should be profitable, and we'll get into that in a second. What's the purpose of your business? Yours is to break generational wealth. I enjoy your marketing shoot. See you later.
I'll be back in an hour.
You might be here. But what's the purpose of your guys' business? This is your why. But like, it doesn't have to be move you to tears right here, right now. But like, what do you want your business to do? Looking for two people.
So my husband's a little bit of a workaholic and I don't like it.
A little bit of a workaholic.
Yeah, so he has his 40-hour-a-week job, but he's always doing something else, like flips or whatever. And I'm like, I would rather him not work so much and spend time with me. And while he's actually working, we go out and make the extra to fund our retirement. I don't want him to feel like he needs to work this to keep up with our lifestyle. I'd rather do it.
Awesome. Next up. This is not a trick. Who knows that they just don't want to share?
Oh, well, I'll share, but it's the same as hers. My husband's a police officer and I want him retired.
I love that.
I want him out.
And it's not a money thing. Like, money is a product that's needed there. Money is the fuel to that thing. But it is the purpose of me having my business is so that I can do this, so somebody else can do this. Right? So just remember as we're going through this, the purpose is not to make money. That's easy to do. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money and they expect it to come in and they expect it to go out. But that doesn't mean you made any money. It just means like revenue was high. Yeah.
No, I almost think it's almost safe to say everybody's purpose of the business in the end is to help someone else. Because financially, like, Dallas, we want to help generational, we want to help wherever I work so much butter. Give people time. It's all about, in the end, we're trying to do this, make the money provide for other people.
100%. So just as we're going through this, I'm a really big people person. We're going to talk about money today, but it's just the fuel. Money is just a tool. If you're afraid of money, money just kind of exposes who you are. So if you're kind of a good person, it's when you get more money, you're just going to be even better of a person. If you're an asshole, you have really bad news. Everyone's going to know what you are when you have more money because it just kind of compounds on itself. We're going to talk about ROI. I just like defining all the terms that we get into this. Who can tell me what ROI is? Define it. Somebody like define it. Return on investment. That's correct. Everyone is right. But what is that? When you break it down?
Use money to invest or spend on something. What are you getting in return?
Yeah, it's really good. So if I spend $1 and I make 50 cents, my ROI is not great. I'm losing money, right? I'm spending $1, I'm making less. So every dollar I spend, I make less money. Therefore, my expenses are higher than my revenue, my income. So I will go out of business. Does that concept make sense to everybody? Right. So if I spend, let me make it. Well, I can write it down if I need to. If you spend $10, and every time you spend $10, it gets you 5 or it gets you 1, like When we sit back and we look at the formula like that, it's really easy. We're like, oh, I would never do that. I would never do that. When we get into creating our business and our budget, because we are businesses, it gets a little weird because it's like, well, as a person, so I'm going to pay that person $10 an hour and it's going to be fine. And they're going to do this, or I'll pay $25 here or $50 here. And we don't hold our money accountable for what it's bringing back. We don't sit down and look at the ROI because we can spend the $10, but if what we're getting is time back, that's time and money, right? So that's what everybody's talking about. But if you're spending money to get time, you're not using that time to get more money, what's your ROI? Less than zero, unless you have money. Unless at that point, unless you've achieved the spot where you just need time because you've got enough money. Most people don't do that. So everything we're talking about here is assuming that you are getting time back and then you are spending that time making more money. The numbers that we're going to go through here they're based off of like a team basically that's doing net or gross, I believe, like 1 million in sales and 2.5 million in sales. Sorry, not sales, income. They're bringing in that much money.
You see that?
Yeah. So who in here wants to run a team that big? It's a fair question. So some people don't want to build a team. That's great. These numbers are going to look huge and daunting. That's okay. It's a model. The cool thing about models is you can change them. Like this is, all these numbers are based on the averages of the MREA, which was them basically interviewing millionaires. It's the averages of what those people spent. But it's the model I want you guys to pay attention to. Okay, I think it's 30, 30, 40, and we'll get into it in a minute. But basically, if you can keep your expenses and your salaries within these percentages, you will win on average. So it's just meant to be followed. But if you're a solo agent, I'm bringing that up because it changes. It's not going to be the same. Your expenses are going to be way lower. You're not going to have 5 salaries, right? So you'll be more profitable. So you just get to keep more of the money. Does that make sense? Okay. Very cool. With ROI, I'm a big investing guy. So I really like this. And I want to touch this really fast on what are the things that you guys can invest your money in. This is the last mindset thing, and then I'll get into this stuff. Rentals, so real estate.
Marriage.
Say again.
Marriage.
Your marriage, yeah. It's personal life.
Employees.
People. For sure. The other one's stocks, bonds, securities. I mean, for sure. The other thing you can invest money into is businesses, right? And like you guys, whether you want to believe it or not, you guys are running a business. You might be the only person in the business, but you need to treat it as it is a business. Otherwise, money comes in, money goes out. If you feel like you're crushing it, and at the end of the year, a tax bill comes due or something, you're like, oh God, I didn't know how to do that. Well, yeah, you're a business and they see you that way. You'll be taxed if so. So you might as well take advantage of all of the things that you can do as a business. And so how much, who invests in like the S&P 500? So they know what the S&P 500 is. It's like mutual funds. So the top 500 companies, you send money into it and it changes, but that's where your money sits. That's good. Who owns all the stock in your business? You do. So if you don't think you have a business, you absolutely do. So if someone's asking you like, what are you investing your money in? If all the money comes in and all the money goes out, you guys don't have any money to invest in your business. So like your business isn't growing, so the value of your business is going down. Does that make sense? So if you own 100% of the stocks of your business, you should really be pushing to make your business as profitable as possible. As profitable as possible. That's hard to say. Profitable as possible. Makes sense? So we all agree that ROI is what you spend, what you get from it. The purpose of your business is not to make money, but it needs money to run. It can be important or it can be everything. You've got to choose one. It can't be both. And you've got to invest it. If you're spending money on people in your business or you're spending money on other things, you have to have money to invest. Feel good? Okay. I'm gonna take a second. That was a lot. It was a lot for me anyway. Any questions before we jump into the actual material? Because I gotta try and get us out of here by noon, so you guys don't lose lunchtime. Because I hated that. And speakers run over and then we lose lunchtime. Any questions? Thoughts, joys, concerns? Going choice. Okay, very cool. So we'll start it off. Oh, please. Hey, read it out. You got two things that you guys can use. We all know what a budget is. And then you've got your profit and loss. Here tracks your expenses currently. Good for you guys. I didn't until like last year. So I'm really proud of you guys. So what do you guys use? What system do you use? QuickBooks. Does anybody here know what QuickBooks is? QuickBooks is super easy to use. It's $25 a month. You literally attach it to your bank account, you log in, you spend 10 minutes, you go through, categorize it in your chart of accounts, which we will go through here in a second. So we're literally giving you the things that you can plug into QuickBooks and then categorize it every month. Then you can use that at the end of the year and you get your taxes back. But also you can see if you're winning or losing. This is something that I like talking about with my team a lot. If you're making a lot of money and you're spending a lot of money, are you winning or losing? You don't know. If you make a lot of money and you can spend no money, you really won that week or that month or that year or whatever it is. You have to have the data. You have to have the data. And I'm not a numbers guy. Like Amy, I think you've seen a lot of the journey here. I'm not a data guy, or I'm not a numbers guy. But if I don't track the numbers, I can't help my people. If you guys are not tracking your finances, the people that you're trying to serve, you might not get to help them next year because you did not take your business seriously. Okay. QuickBooks will literally, you can sit and scan your receipt with your phone and it will attach it to the correct 90% of the time, like transaction. That's really easy. And then there's a few buttons to click, but you can do it. You can run a profit and loss once everything's categorized, and it will make what I'm about to show you way less intimidating and way more easy and way more automated for $25 a month. And I recommend that you do that.
It also tracks your mileage.
But also track your mileage for sure.
It's incredibly helpful this year. My accountant is pleased because he can log in also and see everything that I've done. It's really nice to just give him the info. And he's like, keep track of your mileage. It's
Oh, for
awesome.
sure. Not a CPA, and I'm going off script, but no one's down here, so I can do it. You guys get for every mile you drive, you get like, I think it's 63 cents back right
Yes.
now. So that's huge. That's a huge, 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 huge write-off. So track your miles so that you can give it to your accountant at the end of the year. You can keep more of your income because your deductions come from your income, which means you get to keep more money. Okay. You create budgets is the planning tool. I hate that he said that it's constricting because that means that you don't deviate from it. If something happens in your life and you need to make more money and you have it, change the budget, change the percentages, but just understand how it affects things as it moves down the road. Like that's what I like about budgets is it's a projection. You can really sit down and see what's going on. So actually right here, it says it projects expected returns and cash flow. It will literally show you how much money you should have coming in, how much you don't have, or how much is leaving, coming, going. But what is this? What is knowing this like allow you guys to do? Like realistically, whether you want to start a team or you want to do your own thing. Being able to project how much money you get to keep, or how much money your business makes.
Well, like the car example, you know how many miles down the road you can make it with how full the tank is. So if you
100%. I know that I shouldn't be freaking out this month because I have like a year of reserves. So I'm fine. I have one down month. I want to spend more time with my family. My husband and I want to go on a trip. Great, take the trip. You got plenty of gas. What happens if you've got like an 18th of a tank and you're like, hey, it's time to take a trip? Your eyes just go, oh God, no, terrible. The P&L is a management tool. These two are very different things. When I hear people talk, they actually use them interchangeably. The budget is how you'd like the year to go, right? I want to make $1 million. Excellent. This is what you have to do to $1 million. Great. You get halfway through it, you're like, I'm on track to make $100,000. That's awesome. Maybe we should turn around and change the plan so that it's more realistic and it can actually be something that you can sit and take, what did she say, action on? I forget what it was. It's actionable. And this is why the P&L is important. If you guys can just master these two things, and I say master, if you guys can just get this data from your business, you'll be shocked at what it does for you and allows you to do. It shows actuals versus projections. So right now with the market shifting, things are going out of contract. Things are falling apart more. If you know that yours are completely fine, you don't have to freak out because you can actually see what you're actually spending on stuff. And you can break it down to percentages. We'll get into that more. Restraining the brain, it says. Well, basically, as you guys make more money, it's really easy to spend money. We all agree on that. My good Lord, I was like the amount of money that I spent on stupid stuff in the past 2 years. It's like, that was dumb. Wish I had a budget in place. I didn't do it. And then adjusting to win. The biggest thing with these two tools, it takes you like no time. And actually, if we get done in time, we can have 15, 20 minutes where you guys can build a very generic budget here and then take it home and adjust it. And like, no one, you don't have to share your budget with anybody else. You can figure it out. You can figure out how much money you want to make. And they'll go through like the lead generation models. The other models will tell you how much business you need to do to get there. This is all about creating something that you can go back and work on. Okay. And adjust to win. What happens if you see that you're losing money every month because you're spending money in the wrong places? You're spending $5 on something that's losing you $10 a month. What happens if you don't adjust? Nothing. Keep losing. What happens when you keep losing?
You don't change the oil, the engine blows up, right?
Yeah, you don't explain anymore. Like, can I get 3 people to tell me why you got into real estate? And not like I want to change my, yeah, of course, but like most of the time I say that, and I'm just going to tell you guys what I'm looking for. Most of the time it's I don't want to be my own boss. I want to be my own boss. I don't want to work for other people. I want to be in control of my time. That can be a very powerful why, guys. Like that can be enough to motivate you to keep going through stuff. And if you don't adjust to win, you're gonna go get that job. And all those like negative thoughts you've been having in your head, if you don't adjust to win, they will all come true because that's the way our brain works. Fickle, nasty thing. Down here on the bottom, is this on like a page that you guys have, just so I can know what you guys are looking at? Step 1 is invest, don't spend. What does that mean?
Make sure your dollars come back to you in some sort of return on investment and measure it.
Yeah, it's ROI. If you're not tracking the money you're spending, are you investing or are you spending? Spending. Why spending?
It's not working for you.
How do you know it's not working for you?
You don't track it.
How are you tracking it?
You're not.
Because you don't have a
Budget.
Yes. It all comes back to these things. It's so simple. It's very hard to do. Because at the end of the month, you're like, I spent like, that's like 50 transactions. I don't want to go click the buttons. Hire somebody to do it, pay them $10 an hour to do it, because if paying somebody money to give you this information so that you know, it might not be a dollar per dollar ROI, at least you know what you're doing. This sucks. If you want to get where you want to go, this building is the place to be. If you walk into the buildings or the offices of people that are doing things, and you're like, hey, this is what I want to do. Great. What are your numbers? That was like the thing that got me like every time when I first started. I'm like, I don't know. I just know I want to make 100K. They're like, okay. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And like, I want to make a lot of money. Well, yeah, but you need so much more than just I want to make 100K. Like, how much of the money are you keeping? How much are you paying yourself? What's the? It was like, this sucks. I don't know. I'm just like taking people to coffee and selling houses. But investing and don't spending, and then practice accountability, not accounting. It's a fun little word, like play on words there. What does that mean? And what would, in this instance, what would you be holding yourself accountable to? Budget. And this is going to feel very repetitive, and I want it to be, because I want you guys to leave here and be like, I learned nothing besides these 3 things. If you're not accountable to your budget and P&L, what happens? You don't get to play anymore. You don't get to play anymore. You don't get to go, you don't get to do the things that you want to do, whatever that is. Like, and I say whatever that is, I'm speaking generically up here, like whether it's take the vacation, not work for somebody else, like make that personal. Because spending the 2 hours a month it takes to look over these things is very, very easy. And you'll become a business owner very, very quickly because everyone in this room is smart enough to be a business owner because you're smart enough to leave like W-2 jobs to get here. This is such a pivotal thing. So big. Any questions on that? Thoughts, joys, concerns? No. These are more terms really for today. It's just important for you guys to know. Cost of sales is what it costs to get the business. Did I come up for you guys? Is that the last one? Okay. So what I want you guys to understand is there's two types of terms. There's income and there's expenses. Okay? Expenses take money from your business. Income brings money to your business. We all get that part? Yeah? Okay. When you're breaking it down in your budget, there's really two big places that you need to turn around and you need to look at the expenses. Okay? One is going to be a cost of sale and the other one is an operating expense. They're both expenses, so as long as you're tracking that they're expenses, that's okay. But a cost of sale is like a closing gift. Okay, it's something that every single time, well, you can use that one anyway. Who pays for leads? Anybody? That's a cost of sale. I spend X amount of dollars, I get this amount of leads, this is how this goes. Cost of sales should tell you a direct ROI to how much money you're getting back. I spend $5, I get 10 leads, I convert one lead, I get $1,000 profit. So I'm making about, was it $100? So I spend $10, I get $100. That makes sense. I'm going to move forward and do that. If you guys are tracking your cost of sales, you can see that maybe one is $1 to $5, maybe one's another one $1 to $20. Which one should you spend more money on? Oh, wait.
1 to 20.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Why?
Because you're making more money for the money.
More money. So operating expenses, well, okay, I guess we'll go in order. 2 is revenue left over after cost of sales. Okay. Can someone tell me the difference between income and profit? Because they're both green numbers. Amy,
Income is everything that comes in. Profit is what you have left after expenses.
which one matters the most? Profit. My Lord, profit does. Revenue left over after cost of sales. So if we were to do a math problem, you've got all the stuff that comes in, you subtract the cost of sales, then you have your monthly, your fixed expenses is what I call these, your operating expenses. This would be like your office. This would be gas. This would be a salary. This would be, well, that's pretty much it. I mean, if it's something that you're spending money all the time that doesn't generate income, like it's important to have an office. It's important to have coaching. It might not be dollar to dollar, something you can track. Does that make sense? Okay.
Is marketing a cost of sales?
What kind of marketing is it?
Like marketing a listing?
Are you getting leads from it?
Yes.
Then yes. Good question. Thanks for asking. Oh Lord, what did I do? Net income is pre-tax income after all expenses. Okay, so the way that this looks is income minus expenses. Oh gosh, that was terrible. Which you could call COGS, and operating expenses equals your net income. Where's your guys' salary on this? How much are you guys paying yourselves per month? Who's paying themselves per month? 2? Yeah, if you guys want to know how to do that, call me. That's huge, especially in an industry where it's up and down and closings are all over the place. Of these two, if you had a $100,000 salary or a $50,000 salary, where would it be? Would it be a cost of sale or operating expense? Operating expense. Operating expense, because it's a fixed expense over and over again. You guys understand the difference between the two of those? Because that can get complicated really, really fast. If it's something that generates income, cost of goods sold, and there's I believe it's going to be a couple pages later, it'll show you, it'll break them down into more, and they use those percentages and use those. Who has an accountant that they use or they plan to use this year? Who plans to use an accountant this year? Everybody's hand. Perfect. Take this stuff to them, have them set up your QuickBooks if you're not comfortable with it this way, so that you can categorize everything, so you can see where you're spending your money. And I want to just point out that net income is pre-tax. Pre-tax, so pay taxes on that. What happens if you don't pay your taxes? You really don't get the point. It's like yikes. So here are the percentages that the budget model recommends that you run. Okay. You take away. So 30% should go to your cost of sale. 30% should be operating expense, and 40% should be your net income. So if we were to subtract taxes after income, what would you have? You'd have profit. You'd have profit. Your page.
You're fine.
Okay. If you were going to sell your business, what would they want to see?
Like growth over the years.
Yeah, profit. They want to see it make money. So if you're paying yourself $30,000 a year or $50,000 a year, and it's in this, the profits on top of that, why is it important that you pay yourself a salary? I'm gonna riff on this for a second, because they left me alone down here, which is a terrible idea.
Like the taxes, the business thing, and then you pay yourself a salary out of that. Is that the answer you're looking for there?
Well, just why do you pay yourself salary?
Different
'cause you work.
taxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not there, somebody has to take the spot.
If you ever want to step away from your business, and I mean ever, in the next 15, 30, however many years, you have to be paying yourself a number and tracking it as an expense, so you know exactly what you pay the person that steps in and takes over, because they don't get to make all the money because you built the thing.
But they're not gonna work for 30 grand a year.
Not if they're doing everything you were doing. You have to pay them.
And they're gonna grow your company as it goes.
They should. And better, you better hold them accountable to the dollars.
You better yourself well.
100%. When you step out, this number probably goes up. Then this number probably levels out. And I'm not suggesting that you take all the money so that one person's not getting paid and doing it. I think everyone in this room, if you're going to build a team or build a business, it should be big enough so that everyone in your business can succeed at what they want to do. And it's a very big sentence there, but don't cheap out on people, ever. Never cheap out on people. So you should be spending 30% of your money on things that get you money. Okay, so if you're going to buy leads, try and spend no more than 30% on those things. How many people are on a team right now? Okay, how many people run their team right now? You can raise your hand. You're basically running.
I don't pay the bills.
And then, so who's solo and wants to remain solo for a while? It's perfect. You're fine. These numbers are going to be completely different for you solo people, and that's okay. And the problem with this, and this is one of the reasons this budget training is interesting, is the only way that you can figure out what your percentages are is if you track them. So if you've not been tracking your percentages, there's no way to know what your percentages should be because you haven't been tracking them. But if you connect QuickBooks to your account that you're spending all the money from, you can go back and you can spend a lot of time categorizing the expenses, and then you can actually put a real budget together so that you know how much money you're spending. And if it's above the 30%, and this is what I'll say to help you figure out what it should be. If you're spending more than 30% of your revenue to turn around and then get some, try and reduce that. Just because the model says so. And you don't have to do it because it's just a model. This is the average. So try and play the game. Your operating expenses, try and keep them right here. How much you're paying yourself plus the office plus all the other things, try and keep them around this. And then keep your point. This is impossible to do, by the way, guys. This is an asset. This is impossible to do. It is wild to do this. But it's a model. And it's not meant to be constricting. I can understand how it'd be constricting is if this is the only thing that you did. But on average, this is where everybody was, but it's an average. So some people were a little higher, some people were a little lower. This is just the average of it all. Questions? We're either scared or we're really smart. So here are the percentages we talked about. And so once again, do not let these numbers freak you out because these are based on people that are bringing in millions of dollars a year. Compensation, leads are out, they broke it down. Operating expenses, cost of sale. And just take a second and look those over and let me know what questions you guys have. And it says to print this off and fill it out by hand. Please use QuickBooks. Love God, use QuickBooks.
Amy, you caught up in one night, right?
Yeah, but now I'm behind again.
It's okay, but it takes one night to catch up, really, honestly.
Yeah.
Like you can put it off for a couple months and then go in there once, turns out and catch up. I currently need to catch up as well.
Oh, I won't let that go because that's how it works. But in theory, you're a
Every
few
week.
months behind.
Yeah.
So if you don't do it every month or you don't do it every week and you're looking at it, you could have lost 2 months and you could have changed one thing and you could have saved 2 months. It does just take a night to get caught.
Yeah.
Sentiment is the same.
Yes.
Is anything here surprise you guys?
The office expenses seem really high.
Office expenses, supplies and office. Yeah. Do you guys have a spot where you guys can write stuff down? I'm interested to see. Well, I guess I can hear. So on average, I guess, does everybody want to make $100,000? Can I just skip that?
Yeah.
Cool. So if you make $100,000, this is you paid taxes. Let me go through and just jot down what these are. So this is 30%. So $100,000. What's 30% of $100,000?
30,000.
So you got 30,000 for cost of goods sold. You got $30,000 for operating expenses. It's not called OE anywhere else. I literally just made that up, so please don't Google that. And then the last one is net income, I believe. Net income, which is what the other 40%, so 40,000. So if we're going to do the operating expenses, just so you guys can see if you're making $100,000, what this actually breaks down to, because when you look at this, you're like, well, that's a lot of money. It is, but if you've got 10 people that you have to house and you've got 30 gallons of coffee you have to drink a day, it absolutely changes it. So what is 14.4% of 30,000?
14,400. Oh, of 30,000?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I got you.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. 1,320.
4,320. This is for the year, guys. Lead generation. What is 9% of 30,000?
Don't understand why we're using 30,000. It should be of the total GCI, shouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, it should be. So.
Which is 100,000. So you just take a zero off of each number on.
No, good call, good catch. So yes, but. So. Right. Is that how you fix that?
It would be
No, it's
3,600 for
14,000.
compensation,
Yeah.
2250.
Yeah, here, but it's, I got you. No, I'm catching up.
You take 100,000 times 14.4, it's 14.4 thousand.
9,000, 9,000, 2,500.
I know. I mean, if you're going from $1 million to 100,000, you should just be taking a zero off of each one. No, it's not $1 million, is it?
So this is
That's
for budgeting.
2.5 million.
2.5 is what it
Yeah,
was.
it's 2.5.
Because they're talking about their 750.
So it's 14,400, it's 9,000, it's
So the
occupancy is 1,000.
30% is of the 750,000. Okay. So 750,000 is 30% of whatever the overall GCI was. If we add up all of these percentages, it equals 30%, which should equal 750,000.
Right.
So I changed it to the GCI being 100,000,
So total operating expense would be 30,000.
would be 30,000. And so now of that 30,000, I was breaking down this piece. And so basically just understand how it works. I want you guys to understand when you go home, if you guys sit down, you're like, I want to make a budget today. You can use these and it's actually useful because this is the average. So if you're like, how much should I be spending on lead gen? How much should I be spending on leads? How much should I be doing X, Y, and Z? You can come back here and you can reference this.
But we would pay ourselves $4,000. Is that our compensation?
Yeah, if you're only making $100,000. Like I said, these percentages are impossible to do.
If you want to make 100 grand, your GCI needs to be 250,000. And then you take those percentages of 250,000. Okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
2.5 off the one. There's that one.
Right. And that's just taking your zero off of what is in the dollar common.
So what is 30% of 250,000?
It should be 36,000, right? Oh, what's 30%?
75.
35,000. And I don't want to get lost in the numbers. But
That's what the
It
voice
does
making
make more
sense.
sense that way,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
because you need 75,000 here and 75,000 here to be able to actually net the 100.
And we're doing this a little backwards. So there's going to be a whole hour and a half breaking this down for you guys. It's supposed to happen before this part because of time constraints. It's not how it works out. Get QuickBooks. Understand that this is a system for you guys to follow and use, and it's here. And if it doesn't make sense, reach out to me, knock on the door upstairs, go find somebody, but do it. Because if you don't do it, what happens?
Don't get a play.
You don't get to play the game. And that sucks. Because like from 2018 to right now, my life is radically different because I just decided to play the game. And I didn't create anything new, guys. Have they showed you the stupid triangle yet? The creativity one?
Yeah.
Ugh, it makes me so mad. Because I'm the quintessential, like, what if we just did it this way? And they're like, you could. Why don't you just do it this way? And then it's like, I don't like that though, because it really is fun. And then a year and a half later, I was like, why don't I do it that way? And then I'll be creative after I make money. So right now I'm not making money. So this makes sense. They will help you guys figure out the actual numbers in another spot.
So, but do we also pay ourselves at a gross profit?
If you're a profit first person, it's a little different than this. From the accounting world, it is part of it. It is an expense. So you do the profit personal. I've talked about it a lot with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so your owner pay, technically, the owner pay account is the same thing.
Right.
So like when you go through at the end of the year and you bring up your QuickBooks and your account notes and everything,
Yeah.
they're gonna lump those all as. Because it is technically an expense, we just break it down differently. Because we believe in psychology, not people, or numbers. We believe in psychology.
I was gonna say, this way you'd have to do 300,000 GCI in order to pay only yourself
Yeah, this is a
$100,000.
nightmare.
Yeah.
This is a nightmare.
And then you've got money sitting there. But I guess that's your investment money or whatever, I don't know, but.
That's perfect,
Yeah.
yes. It's a model. And just find a way to use it to the way that serves you and that you actually use it. It's the biggest thing. Here's some benchmarks for different things. There's a couple things that I think are interesting that I want to bring up here. First off, who's overwhelmed by just looking at this? It's a lot.
It doesn't make sense to me. Because net income to me, that's my income.
Well, net income is also before tax.
Right, but it's still, but yeah.
Mhm.
But that 129, if I were doing 340 and paying whatever else, I would think that 129 was my net
So
income.
change net income to business profit.
Okay.
That's business profit there.
After taxes. It is.
Right.
Right. We'll just assume tax.
Yeah.
But the business is actually making more money than I am.
Right,
But you own the
right.
business.
But I mean, yes,
Yeah, I know. No, this is cool. So this is why this is I can't say that word here. That's why this is so strange and so
Yeah.
odd. And it's the opposite of our nature.
Yeah.
It's very counterintuitive to
Right.
do naturally. So just know it's not going to feel natural. It's going to suck and you have to do it anyway.
Yeah.
You have to be accountable to it and you have to do it. And it doesn't take that long. Once you get the system in place, which is what they're trying to show, it works out really, really well. It's very, very helpful.
I feel like this changes our thing that we did 2 weeks ago.
Oh, God.
You think to the 30% cost of expenses, Shanna would fight to get that down heavily because she doesn't
As a
believe.
solo agent, if you're spending 30% of that is wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is wild.
Right.
You should be spending like 5 to 10%.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
So once again, if you're a solo agent, these numbers are
Yeah.
vastly different. These are just averages and we're really looking at concepts. That's why I'm trying to spend so much time on it because it's a concept.
Right.
Some things do run true. And so I'm a huge fan of solo agents and everybody being solo agents and starting off as a solo agent because you're never as profitable as you are as a solo agent. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
If you start a team and you create a team, your expenses go up, so your income goes down because that's how it works. So you make less money, your business makes more money. You have to commit to a very long time to make sure that then you can start making your money via the profit account or the net income instead of just the operating expense account. But what happens to the net income as the GCI grows?
That grows. But the percentage goes down.
The percentage goes down. What does that mean?
You're spending a lot.
Who here is lost right now? Anybody? Donna?
Yeah,
What part?
I think whether we're talking about like the net income part of it.
Okay, so let's do this. So income minus profit equals expenses. Well, I'm doing that backwards now because that's how I do it. Income minus expenses equals profit. Does that make sense? Right, so money comes in, we spend it, what's left is how much the business makes. If you don't have a system in place, this is our default operating mode. And so you're not controlling anything. This is just what's left. So kind of what we're doing here. And if you're a math person, you're gonna look at that and be like, it's the same thing. It is the exact same thing. The formula is the exact same. But when you have a system in place, what you find out you're doing and profit is the word that we're going to use, but we can use, I don't want to convolute that. Let's just leave this here. The reason this works well is because we're people and we don't do budgets. Okay. Like I understand math and I get it, but I like the psychology of people better. The math formula here is the exact same. How it functions and operates is completely different because if I'm running my business and I get the money that comes in, I will spend it on whatever I need to spend it on because it is, and then I will have whatever is left over, and that's how much money I made that month. That's what we all do. Even if you have a W-2 job, that's what you do. This works for your household as well. If we switch it around, it's kind of what you're getting at earlier. And the money comes in and we pay ourselves and take care of the business first. Let's just actually say we pay ourselves first, okay? So money comes in, we pay ourselves first. Then we have to run our business on what's left. Okay, so the game doesn't become, how do I make enough money to meet ends meet? The game becomes, how do I run the business in a way that I can still make sure that I'm making enough money? Does that make sense?
Which I think is how, honestly, that's how we do our lead generation calculator to figure out how many appointments we need to make the money we want to make. That's the number.
100%.
So I think that's right. Like, if I want to make $250,000, I have to figure out how much money I can spend and how much I have to do.
Yeah, and that's the model, and it's that simple. I say simple. It's really just that's it. And depending on how you want to get your business and how you want to run it, Your chart of accounts or how you categorize things may be different, but the formula is the exact same. And so this right here, Cassie, if this confirms what you're saying, is GCI. This is part of the OpEx, operating expenses, and then this would be your COGS. Yeah.
Just want to throw a thought in here.
Please.
As an individual agent who has operated self-employed since I was in my 20s, okay? This model, the 30-30-40 model, is for running a large business, a large team that needs to be educated, needs to be fed, needs a place to go to work. As an individual agent, my personal numbers are, okay, income 100%, expenses 10%, profit 90%. That's why Blake said you're never more profitable than when you're an individual agent. So for every dollar I spend on expenses, I want to earn 10. Or for every $100 I spend on advertising, I want to earn back 1,000. Does that make more sense to individuals? Yeah. So if I want to make $250,000 a year, I need to earn $275,000 a year, and I'm going to spend $25,000 on advertising and work my flipping butt off to make 200. I mean, that's a big number.
Right.
Okay, it's not impossible. Then there's a lot of different strategies to get to that point. 100,000 is easy to make in real estate, you guys. Yeah, it's cakewalk, and that means making 110 and spending 10,000.
And by looking at these, picking the percentage that makes sense, and as a solo agent, let's say it's 10%, not 30%.
Yeah.
What it does is it allows you to make sure that you only spend 10%.
Right.
To generate stuff so that you can stay in the game and continue to play the game. Okay,
And it's still just another model.
it's just a model. It's just a model. It's a freaking model that's right here that you can plug into and you can rock and roll. It's great. But customize it. It's meant to be customized, and I don't think we've done a good job of explaining just how easy it is to customize it, because it's just a percentage. You change the percentage. So the first, let's say your first quarter, it's 10%, and then you see, because you run your P&L, and the 10%, and the 10% is way more than what you've been spending. Adjust the percentage to 5. Or if you've been spending way more than the 10%, adjust the percentage to 15. Just know when you guys are adjusting these models and you're changing it, you don't just get the lower or raise one percentage from another place. It has to come from another account. So if this one goes up to 40, this one needs to go down to 20. Because it always has to equal 100, otherwise you're spending money you don't have in the broken model. That's just not working at all. Was that helpful?
Yeah.
80. What?
100 minus 20 is 80.
Well, there's one other piece that's missing here.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's where it gets weird. I prefer, and every person on my team, we run it as if we're solo agents. Because it's easy for everyone at every point in time to look and see how much profit we have as agents and then as a team. Because they're, as you can see, they're wildly different. Okay. The interesting thing here, though, that I want you guys to see is as your business grows, the expenses do. So, nice. I dig that, whatever that was. Net income, which is the profit, if you will, is profit after you subtract taxes, which taxes is a huge freaking chunk of that. Just adds up. You can expect to pay 1/3 of what you make in taxes. That's straight from the book. 1/3 of everything you make is tax. You just went straight to taxes. Unless you invest in real estate, which you should, because then you can keep it all, and I can tell you to do that just for a second. So profit goes down, cost of sale goes up, gross profit also goes down. Expenses, see how it fluctuates? You notice how that's the one that's just kind of going all over the place? It's because it needs to be tracked and it needs to be modified and it needs to be looked at because it changes. If you have 1 month where here's all over the place because everyone decided we want to buy houses, you might have to go pay extra money to have someone come in and help you so that you can service all the business that you have. So your expenses for that month might be higher. And if you're looking at it every week to make sure that you're not losing money every week. And then you look at it every quarter to make sure you're not losing the quarter. You can look back at the end of the year. This is where I come to the projection piece. And you can say, okay, so Q3 this last year, there's nothing to put my foot on. Almost fell. Q3 this year, we needed a lot of help. We didn't have it. So I wonder if I can get someone in place by Q3 next year to help. Or I want to see if it comes in. And then you can do it for another year. And you can see, yeah, Q3 kicks our ass every time. I wonder how much money we're losing in Q3. How do I solve the problem that is Q3? It allows you to look at it as a business owner, not somebody that's trying to make money and eat. If you're trying to make ends meet, you're not going to have a successful business. Because you're trying to make sure that you're fine. If you can run these models, it allows you to have the peace of mind, and you can actually approach your business like a business owner. Make sense? How we doing bandwidth, guys? Feeling fine? Wait, no with numbers yet? Okay. This is more stuff for you guys to just look at and take in. Since the majority of everybody in here is a solo agent, I'd say take it as a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt. But look at the categories. I think the categories are the things that you should be looking at. Ignore the percentages, but look at the categories. And a big one here, especially as a solo agent, and once again, this is coming from the guy that was like a Call of Duty nut, and now like it's awesome. It's really cool being me. Education and coaching, guys. You should put a lot of money into that. Whether it's, and I say this here, Nicole, plug your ears. It can be here, it can be elsewhere, it can be online courses, whatever it is. If you're not consuming things and getting better, your business will stay stagnant. I will say Keller Williams has plenty to start at. And there's enough to keep you going. Do not hesitate to pay money for that. So don't strike that category out. Okay. Are there any surprising pieces on here? Like just for the things that you'd be spending your money on as an agent, as a business owner? No. Yeah. This is the monthly profit and loss that we talked about. You can print this off if you like, and you can add it up by hand, and you can do that. I recommend paying $25 in QuickBooks and doing it that way. Because also you won't mess up the math like I was doing up here. And then do you guys have this? Do you guys have the your turn piece?
At the very back of your book, you have worksheets for everything.
And so once again, and this is the big takeaway, and I've said it 50,000 times, and I'm sorry, but I really want it to land. Use this business plan, scratch the percentages, but go off of how much money you want to make, and just assume these categories are things that you're going to use. And at the end of the year, when you go through and you use your chart of accounts is literally just a ledger that holds the accounts that you categorize things in. That's all that is. But this way you have enough to break everything down. It says I have 30 minutes left, but in 10 minutes it's noon. So if you guys can give me like 10 minutes of really good ahas, I'll be done at 12. Otherwise, I'm gonna write out the 30 because I can just sort of write it in the prompt first and you have to read. You're good.
I honestly like the money thing, like money's fuel analogy. That just clicked with me. That really made more sense because I was just like, I know what I need to make a month to make, ends meet. But when you broke it down to, don't think of it that way. Think about the income, profit minus it, or the income minus profit equals expenses.
Yeah.
But also money's fuel to get you where you want to go. That just, I don't know, that jived with me quite well.
That's cool. I love it. So it's big because you have to know where you want to go. Right, and that's when they're talking about the big why, and I hate that it's the first thing that it gets rushed through. Because it's like, hey, you have a minute and a half, think of your big why. You're like, I'd like to make money, I think. At 45 seconds, like, yeah, money's good. But spend some time to really think about that. Otherwise, you don't know how much fuel you need.
Exactly.
That's cool. I'm glad that resonated. Thanks for sharing that. Like 9 more minutes, guys.
Just throw some thoughts at the room, get some feedback of what you guys think about it. With this class being a business clinic, and like you said, so many are individual agents. I would propose to you individual people to look at your life as an all-encompassing business. Okay, what are your costs? Well, that's your rent, that's your groceries, that's your gas, that's your electricity. Very few people have a strict budget they live to in their personal life. Who does? Okay, so if you're gonna run your business and you're gonna run your life as a business, you need to know how much money you're spending every month and allow for that, okay? And then you need to know how much money you want to spend per month. And then that's what you need to grow your business to as an individual. I mean, the idea of creating a business, creating a large team that does 1 million, that's something that should be in your head, I think. And it's in mine. But at this point in time, as you move forward, if you don't know what you're personally spending a month, or your family is personally spending a month, you don't know how much you need to earn. And you're back to that thing of whatever's left over is what I've got. What I learned way long time ago was to have 2 bank accounts, okay? One for my family or me personally, and one for my business. And any money I made goes into my business account. Then I pay myself what I need per month to live my life. And what's left over in December, the profit, like I generally spend that in December, so I don't pay taxes on it. I'll buy my computers, I'll buy cameras, I'll buy whatever it is that I need for my business. And then what's ever left over after that December is what I'm gonna pay taxes on as my business profit, okay? It's very, very important that you don't use your business account for your groceries, for your pet food, for your clothing. That's really not a business deduction. But it's very important that you do use it for your website and for your internet connection and not your car stuff, because we're gonna do miles.
Yeah.
So I'm not a tax person, but miles is better than keeping track of your cars. But at the end of the year, whether you've done QuickBooks or not, you have a very clean accounting of your business inside your business checking account. Here's the money I made, here's the money I spent on business, and here's the draw I gave myself.
Originally, I'm teaching classes on this, so if you're curious about LLCs and you're curious about accounts and how you do all that, we just did the first one, we were looking for feedback from people, and that's the stuff that people were asking about. So there's a whole other class that we can get in on that.
Yeah, and then that trains your brain to think of yourself as a business, and then that you start thinking about, well, how can I make other people rich?
Yep.
And that's
Summarize that in like one sentence. If you don't know how much money you need at home, you don't know how much money the business needs to bring in. And if you don't know how much money the business needs to bring in, if you don't know what you need, you don't get to play the game. You gotta quit. Another aha. 5 more minutes. Did you have one? You look like you were gonna say something a second ago.
Oh, I just liked how you pointed out like your mindset around budget could be either it's limiting or it's an allowance, like to play with or work with.
100%.
So, simple but big.
Yeah, because it should tell you what you can do, right? And the peace of mind, you shouldn't trade that peace of mind for anything. Anything else? You guys are gonna make me go into something in 5 minutes, I promise. You don't want me to do that.
So play Call of Duty?
Some, yeah. Not as much as I did. It turns out like those investing and getting those up and running, it takes a lot of time. I think about it often though. Think about it all the time.
I like that you pointed out as a solo agent that if focus on the categories, not like the percentages, because I've never bought any leads. I've never spent money on that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so my expenses are low, really low. And it's always just blows my mind. I'm like, but I have no desire to have the team.
Yeah.
But this is what it's, so much of it is so directed to teams, but there are so many solo agents. So I'm glad you hit home on that a lot.
It's the same models though. That's the part that's cool.
Change the percentages.
Change the percentages. Cool, thanks for sharing that. Maybe 2 more, we'll quit. I won't even go 5 more minutes. I can tell I'm draining you guys.
I would say to piggyback on what Tim said and what she just was talking about, having been a solo agent before, if you aren't using something,
you need to be, because you set yourself wide open to lose everything you've worked for. So, and I've seen it happen, seen people crash and burn very hard. So like, just take the time. I do 1 hour of our QuickBooks a week. That's it.
Good for you.
1 hour every Tuesday. I click through, categorize the things that I need to, and roll on with the day.
But how many hours did that happen in the past 2 years? Let's be real, until you
It
joined
didn't.
us. It
Yeah,
didn't.
it didn't.
You know, just be honest about it. It didn't.
It took me
And we're a lot better because of it.
one
like
day to
literally.
set it up.
And we're not even close to good yet.
No.
Like, we're a year away from being good with it, I think. But seriously, just getting started.
Starts huge.
Well, I just got.
One more from somebody that hasn't said anything.
Doing my credit like again.
Did you say something in this one? I want to hear it anyway.
In this class,
Yeah, go ahead.
you know I'm gonna say something to every thing. Okay, so I took this class last year for the first time, and I created my budget for 2022 in that class. I revamped it for 2023. Doing it opened my eyes to the possibilities even more than just the fact that I needed to have a budget and this is what I'm spending and this is how much everything costs. But it helped me to open my eyes to the volume that I really needed to do and wanted to do. And that it helped me to create that whole big picture.
Yeah.
So now I have, you know, all my volume goals. I have the full budget broken down. I know how much every single thing is going to cost. And if anybody wants to see how I put mine together, they're welcome to.
Everybody during lunch should ask her to see that.
Well, maybe after the class, because I really have to write a contract. But after.
When I say that I was not a numbers or budget guy 3 years ago, I was absolutely not. But the minute I tied my wife working optionally, how much we needed and all those different things to it, by sitting down and revamping a budget and seeing like, yeah, I need to close like 9 million in volume to be able to purchase this many duplexes at this price point. This is how much I need. The minute that it was that clear for me, it was like, yeah, it's time to rock and roll. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, we are gonna finish getting set up. Well, if you guys want to use restrooms, get drinks are up here. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Claire Buckler, the Director of Lead Gen for Adam Brady's team and the Grady Boy Network. And I actually run a team of inside sales agents. So that's all we do all day long is lead generate, which is pretty cool. But also help the agents on our team and all that sort of stuff. So I'm excited to kind of go through this today with you guys. Okay, a couple of different things. Does anybody know what a lead is? Definition of a lead? Somebody who will be purchased in the next 2 years.
Two-way conversation.
Two-way, close, contact. So everybody, the good thing to know about leads, people will reference leads. They might reference conversations or contacts. And the important thing to know is every team and or agent will call it something different. Their definition of what a lead is and what a contact is can be different. So I always like to clarify. And when we look at the information from today and what the MREA says, a lead is a person who has shown interest in the services you offer and who you can contact. So a lot of times I switch that to a registration, right? Or somebody, we've put in the system, right? A lead is just an opportunity that you haven't reached out to yet. Typically, it would mean that we have at least a phone number and email address. We have to have some way to contact them to be a lead. And phone number is king, so phone number is best. So a lot of cases you'll have both, but that's what they're defining a lead as. And then a contact is somebody that you put in your database and you have permission to follow up with. I would even add to that, a contact is somebody we've talked to about real estate, right? I think that's a pretty easy definition, right? A lead, they registered, or you have their information. Maybe they were a referral, right? Hey, so-and-so's looking to buy, you should give them a call, right? That's a lead.
here's a name and number and a phone number, name, phone number, email address, right? And then a contact is when you actually are able to touch base with that person and correspond with them. Regardless, in my opinion, regardless of if they set an appointment or they actually have any real estate needs, it's still a contact about real estate, right? So we will talk about leads and contacts as we move forward through the session, and just so you guys kind of understand the difference between both of those. Okay, let's see, might be on. So most, the MREA teaches us to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced, which would mean at the heart, we're prospecting based, and we're always reaching out to people, right? So prospecting would be the act of reaching out and finding people to contact, right? So what are some prospecting based activities that some of you do currently?
Open house.
Open house, it's perfect.
Social media.
Social media, yeah. Yeah, those are great ones. You know, door knocking. Yep. Door knocking, doing events, contacting people in your phone, right? Your sphere, maybe past people that you've worked with or interacted with, been involved with somehow. All of that is some sort of prospecting. And then the marketing enhanced is when you start, could almost even do like a marketing or door knocking. Parts of that can be marketing enhanced, right? You're giving them something, right? You're giving them something that has your information on it, that you're creating a brand for yourself, right? It could be later on running an ad through command, right? To get leads through Facebook or social media. Those would be marketing based stuff. Even how you set up your open house, right? You know, you're putting balloons out, you're putting signs out, you know, all of that helps with the marketing piece. That's the brand recognition and starts creating that awareness that this is who I am, this is what I do, and I can help you with your real estate needs. So they teach us about the rule of 4, which is lead sources. And there should be, is there a page like this? Yeah. So if you, whether you've been in the business, you know, a couple days or a year or two, go through and start circling the lead sources that you are a part of. Just a show of hands, who's in the business, been in the business longer than 6 months? Okay, quite a few people. What about longer than a year? Okay, so we've got some people that have been in the business. So those of you that have been in the business 6 months, a year, you've got some closings under your belt. Talk to me about what some of your top lead sources are. So the rule of 4 is that 80% of our business, it says 82% of our business, 80% of our business will come from your top 4 lead sources, right? So, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but so talk to me about what your top 4 lead sources are. I know you've been in the business a little bit. What are your top 4 lead sources?
Probably Facebook and Boomtown.
Okay. Very good. Okay.
Open house.
Open house. Okay.
And everything that goes along with it. So
Okay.
door knocking, circle prospecting, calling afterward.
Okay. Very good. Does anybody else want to share? Randy?
Our team wise is sphere, repeat, and referral.
Okay. Awesome. Anybody else want to share? Okay, I'll share. Mine's very much along the line of Lindy and the Boomtown type leads, right? So even as many transactions as our team does, our #1 lead source, and it's 60% of our business is still repeat, and referral. So I kind of lump those together. So sphere, and that would be any sphere or past client that does repeat or referral business, right? It's the big, so when we talk about the other three, top 4 lead sources, those are all just a piece of the other 40%, right? So for us, that's people that call in on our signs. So sign calls, and that number's on social media and things like that. So people that call the office, that call our number directly, that's number 2. And then really, so hold on, sphere, past client, sign calls. And then those are our main lead sources. The other ones, you know, they kind of fill in, you know, the other 20, 25%. And that's kind of a combination of for sale by owners and expireds, which we have a slide on that too, where we don't prospect and call anybody. That's on the do not call list, right? We never do that. We don't use dialers. You know, we're careful with all that. But those open house leads, pay-per-click, so like your Google ads and things like that, Facebook leads, all of that just kind of fills in a little bit. And so I'm not surprised to hear some of the top sources from you guys. You know, typically referrals from people that already like, know, and trust you are going to be your best. They're typically nicer to deal with. Your transactions go a little smoother, and they will typically give you referrals too, which is really awesome. One thing to point out with this that is really, really cool is you're building your business, knowing where your business comes from is so crucial. So I heard, what was your name, ma'am? Amanda. Heard Amanda say you think it's these 2 sources, or you think so. One thing I would encourage you to do is if you're, and Command does this for you, if you're using Command, other leads or other CRMs, do the same thing, but it will tell you where, if you're going in and marking people closed in your CRM, it will start building a list that will tell you where all your closings are coming from. And then we're not sure, like we know this is where they come from. And then when we talk about the rule of 4, so as we move into the next year, right, you know exactly where you should be spending your money and your time. Right, at the end of the day, like these lead sources over here are fun, right? It can be fun to buy leads and it can be fun to do this, but at the end of the day, my business comes from these 4 sources, and this is what I want to spend my time and my energy on. So that's something we track at a super high level, because we need to know, you know, where the business comes from, and where, not even where we want to put our money, where we want to put our time and our energy. You know, if open houses aren't producing well, look at all these lead sources, right? You know, if you're not a fan of cold calling, don't cold call, but you got to do something, like go pick something on this list and go do it well, and then track what your results are so you know what to focus on the next year. So I think that's really cool. If there's any questions about that, lead sources, tracking.
I have a question, Clint.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said that your second main lead source is sign calls. You group a bunch of things in that, or are we really just talking about somebody saying I'm outside of 123 Main Street and your number's on the sign?
Yeah, so it's pretty traditional sign calls, and that's a great question that Adam himself asked, I don't know, a year ago. So when we put it in there, we write that it's a sign call. So when we set an appointment, we fill out a form, and it's got all this information in it. And we put the address we called in on, because if there's not an address associated with it, it's not a true sign call, and we would put it in another source. So some of our past data probably has some of that, but when they call in, we ask, like, how did you hear about us? Because if it's a true sign call, they're like, hey, I'm in front of 123 Main Street, right? But yeah, and obviously with the market changing, that lead source has actually gone up a lot because houses aren't selling as fast. So people are more likely to call now. I think before they would check online and see it pended and just never reach out. And now it's not pended. So they're calling. So That's why that we get to this in a slide, right? But the pillars are leads, listing, and leverage, right? That's the triangle that the MREA talks about. And when we talk about lead generation, right, our jobs are to lead generate and take listings. And that's why listings are so crucial to your business, because every good listing you have, you should get 2 or 3 good leads off of every listing. And yeah, they're gold, those signs, directionals, get them all out there. Yeah. Okay, so this is the lead capture funnel, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, where the lead comes in, right? We capture the lead, or they register, right? I call them registrations sometimes. They go into your database, and then we're working to turn the lead into a contact, right? Because then once we've contacted them, then we can decide what we're going to do with them, right? But in general, they go from a contact to conversation, hopefully an offer, and then after that they go into hopefully repeat or referral business, and then those referrals cycle back to the top, right? So it's a very secular piece. Are any of you in Max coaching? No, okay. So they did a fall mastermind where there was a speaker. His name was Jeb, J-E-B, Blount, and but he has a book called Fanatical Prospecting, and he referred to the pipeline as your life, right? It's the pipe life, not the pipeline, because as a real estate agent, your business will rise or fall based on the amount of people you have coming through your pipeline, right? You have to have people coming through your pipeline in order to move your business forward. And I think this diagram is a really great representation of how that works, right? You always have to be feeding your pipeline so that you've got people that you're turning from leads to contacts to conversations, hopefully contracts, and then to repeat and referral business. And then those people you get from repeat and referral business go back to the top and funnel back through. And so we always want to do a good job of keeping that fed. Does anybody care to share, or does anybody know how many leads or contacts they have in their database right now? Is anybody tracking? Yeah.
Somewhere around, it's like 1347-ish
Okay.
in the last week, somewhere around there.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
there's more probably today and yesterday, but yeah, about 1340.
And did those come from like putting your phone in there, or where did the leads come from?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, start there.
Yeah, okay.
Start with the phone, add them, and then went to running ads, prospecting, all of those different things.
That's awesome.
So,
That's
yes.
awesome. Great job. Okay. Love it. Who else wants to share?
Mine's the same. I think mine is 588.
Okay. Perfect. Anybody else want to share?
I think mine's like 38 because I haven't updated it in a while. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
I
that
love
one.
But you have leads in your database. Yeah. Right? Okay, perfect. I love it. What?
I said I have 30 and it is updated.
Okay. Hey. Listen, I love numbers because you never know. You don't always realize the progress you're making unless you know where you start, right? So, in a month, you might have 200, and some people might be like, oh, 200 is not that much, but you start at 30, that would mean I don't know, I don't do math super well, times it by 6, right?
Yeah.
You I don't know what the number is for that, but I mean, you took what you had and you times it by 6, and now you have 200, right? Which is really, really, really amazing. And that's how your database grows, right? It's not something you look at every day and you're like, you stress over it. It's something that I would check maybe once a month, because I think if you want to look at it, but you don't want to stress about it. And if you can look at your progress, month over month, what would it look like if you added 100 people every month? How many people would you need to add every day to get 100 in a month, right? If you work, let's just use a 5-day work week, right? Typically that's 20 days in a month. If you put 5 people in your database every day. In a month, you have 100 more people. And in a year, you have 1,200 more people, right? That compound, there's a book, I think it's called Compound Effect, honestly. I don't know, somebody might remember the name better than me, but they talk about that and how the effect of doing little things every day consistently make a huge impact on your business over time. We're getting ready to do a formula in here that will show you, based on how many leads you have, what you can expect to get. And that's one of my favorite things to talk about, so we can get real nitty gritty with people if you guys want to. But when you know your activities every day, you can forecast whatever future you want to have. Like for me, I know that if I talk to, now this was a year ago, so I might not be quite this skilled the second today, but in the past, for basically every 10 people I talked to, I got an appointment. So if I wanted 100 closings at the end of the year, I can work the math. I can take what I typically make on a closing. And well, I would pick the dollar amount I want to make, and then I would take what I make per closing and divide it into that dollar amount. Then I know how many closings I have to have. And then I can take math and work all the way backwards to, based on all my conversions from a conversation to an appointment, to a contract, to a close, how many people I have to talk to every day. And that's what I focus on, right? Because I know regardless of how far away this goal over here seems, if I talk to, for me, it was, I had to talk to 36 people a day, right? If I talked to 36 people a day, I would hit that goal. And the math always worked out. I always hit the number at the end of the year. So we're going to do a little bit of that. So you guys can kind of plan if you wanted to have 50 closings, or if you wanted to have 25 closings, how many closings you want to have, then we can do some math and figure out exactly how many people you have to have in your database to make that happen. So, okay, let's see if we can get to that. Let me make sure there's not anything in between. So they do talk, before we get to the math, they talk a little bit about like the frequency of our communication. So we have 30 people in our database. How often are you communicating with those 30 people?
Often am I? Not very often, in all honesty. I need to
Okay.
get better, but I did purchase Land Voice.
Okay.
That way I can answer full call, because I do know I have a very small sphere.
Sure.
So I'm using that to prospect more, so I can add contacts as well.
Perfect. Perfect. So what about you, Amanda? How often do you talk to the people in your database?
Quarterly.
Quarterly, perfect. That's textbook answer. Great job. Yeah, all that. What, anybody else want to share?
At least quarterly.
Okay, perfect. And is that everybody or certain people in your database? Maybe the people that answered?
Yeah, sometimes they don't answer, and some of them have never answered, but it doesn't mean I don't try.
Yeah.
You know, and then, so, yeah, they're tried quarterly.
Yeah.
And some of them get more, some of them, and then they blast an email to everybody.
Mhm.
Maybe if something really exciting is happening or
Okay.
big is happening, like the shift in the market,
Sure.
that one got an email.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
it could be more often.
Okay, very good. So they talk about frequency. It says when considering quality versus quantity, quantity keeps you top of mind. Don't undertouch because of the fear of over touching people. So you will all run into this at some point. You will think you're annoying people. So we hold back on communicating often enough, and then you call them and they've already bought. Super sad. Super sad, right? Because right now we have to wait, right? They might not buy again for 3 to 5 years, right? Or it could be longer, right? So we've kind of missed the mark. And so, so they talk about frequency, consistency, making sure your touches are consistent, that we gain permission, really it's like, hey, I would love to keep in touch. Do you care if I reach out again, or can I call you again? And then making sure that we're highlighting value that we offer to that person when we're on the phone. So, and I would even add to that, one of my favorite things to do when talking to people, because so there's two different conversations we have when we talk to people, in my opinion, right? There's the colder lead that we're trying to gain their trust so that they will use us when they buy or sell, right? That's one type of conversation. The other conversation is somebody that already knows, likes, and trusts us, and we just want to stay top of mind in case they have repeat referral business, right? So those conversations, quarterly, I think is good. I think you can call them more than quarterly if there's reasons to reach out. Our rule of thumb is every 90 days, right? 90 days, and they're still getting like a monthly newsletter. They're still getting indirect touches from the team as well, right? But we still call them once a quarter, and we're going to check in on them. We're going to ask if they're working on any projects around the house, right? We're going to maybe ask for a referral or a review, something like that. But we're going to keep they're fun calls, right? They're pretty high level. Like, we're not getting too crazy with anything, because we want them to think of us in a good light, right? We want to be the economist of choice if they're ready to buy or sell or refer anybody. The person that we're trying to convince to work with us, right? That's a different conversation, right? And those conversations, you really have to, in my opinion, show your value a little more. And your frequency matters based on their time frame. So I'm not just going to blanketly call them every quarter, because what if they told me they're thinking of buying in the next 90 days? Well, if I wait 90 days to call them, I might miss them. So for a typical buyer lead, whatever they tell you is their magic moving time, right? You can typically cut it in half and build your follow-up off of that. So if they say, well, I'm really thinking next spring, and after talking to them, you're like, well, why is next spring important? Right? And they're like, well, I mean, it just seems like a good time to move. So now I'm starting to think, oh, okay, so doesn't have to be next spring, right? And you're like, okay, so what are you looking for? And you go through this. When we build a follow-up, I'm probably going to build a follow-up off of half of that time frame. And when I leave the call, I'm going to set their expectation for my next call, right? Like, hey, it sounds like your timeline's a little farther off. You just started thinking you still need to maybe talk to a bank when we get a little closer. What if we do this? Do you have any other questions before, about purchasing a house? And they're like, no. Okay, awesome. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you in about 3 months. Will that be okay? And they're going to say yes. Or I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to call you in 2 weeks, right? I'm going to check in and let's see what it looks like in 2 weeks. And what I like to do is set the expectation on what I'm going to do, because then when you follow through with it, so what you do then is you actually have to call them in 2 weeks, right? You call them when you say you're going to call them, and you remind them like, hey, I promised you I was going to call you in 2 weeks. I promised you I was going to call you in 2 weeks. I'm calling, have you thought any more about purchasing or selling or whatever it is, right? And it's a great way to build value as you move people, I call it down the football field, right? Every phone call with a new lead, you're trying to gain yardage and get them down the football field. So those are some little things you can do to kind of set expectation and get people moving down. All right, I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but good stuff. Okay, you guys have any questions on frequency and how we communicate with our leads? Okay, so these are some basic touches that you would do, and they do include the phone call. Yet I know these are really easy to set up in Command, and it will do some of those automated touches that we talked about that go along with the phone calls. So like your 19 Connect, that's going to be your quarterly touches. You're going to do 12 monthly email newsletters. You're going to do 2 touches that are some sort of like promotional direct mail, and then an in-person event of some sort, right? And I know Command, there's classes on Command, right? They help you guys set all of that stuff up. But Yeah, those all work. I think I honestly lean more towards the 19 to connect than the 36 to convert, but a lot of people really like the 36 to convert and it works well for them. And again, to me, there's two different types, right? There's staying in touch with somebody we already like and know, or they know and like us, right? And there's trying to convert somebody to being an appointment. So I think when we think of this, I think they're leaning more towards your sphere in this. And I do want to just point out that I definitely would not just do that if I was trying to convert a lead to buy or sell. So just making that distinction. Oh, here's our warning. We use the do not call list. We do not call people that are on the do not call list. Okay, so now you get to fill out a form. Okay, let me do the math though, because I don't know, there wasn't a slide unless I missed it. There wasn't a slide for this. So let's do a little bit of math. Okay, so the example, this isn't how, so back to what we talked about is how many leads do I need to get so many closings? We'll just use their example in here. So if I have so the general rule of thumb that the MREA goes by is that 6% of your contacts will transact every year. So if you have 500 contacts and you look at 6%, and then you also assume, so a 50% conversion. So 6% of 500 is 30. So we can assume if you have 500 people in your database, that 30 people will buy and sell. 30 of those people will buy or sell this year. So somebody mentioned they had 1,500, or I'm going to round up and say 1,500 in their database, right? So math was easier. They would have 90 people in their database that are going to buy and sell this year, right? The general rule of conversion is 50%, and that's what they're saying in here, right? 50%. So you divide that in half, you now have 15. If you have 500 people in your database, the likelihood is you're going to get 15 transactions. That's based on 50% conversion. So one of the things I love working with people on is, well, what if I got 75% conversion? Right? What if I was that diligent at calling my people and that skilled at my listing appointments and my buyer consults that I could get 75 of those? Well, now you'd be at 22 without having any more people. Right? You still only have 500 people, but you could then get 7 more closings. Right? And so when you, anyway, so that's the general rule of thumb. And we can talk more about tracking if you guys are, you know, open to that or into that, or we have time, but it's just a good rule of thumb. So you can also take that and say, okay, you know, what if I wanted 50 transactions? You know, how many people would I need? And when you have, if this is just general math again, but you can use that math and figure out, well, you know, so this is 15, you know, at that math. So we would be 2, 3, if you wanted 40 transactions, you would need just over 1,500 people in your database. So if I didn't have 1,500, if I wanted 50 closings, I didn't have 1,500 people, my first job would be to go figure out how I'm going to go get more people's information. So you mentioned you got Land Voice. Great idea. I think Land Voice even lets you back pay for old information. You can instantly, right? It's not that expensive either, right? So you can go buy the information, right? That's one way. It's one way to do it, right? So let's all think about that for a second. What would I do today if I had to go get 1,000 more leads? What would some ideas you guys have be? You needed 1,000 leads to hit your goal, for next year, right? Technically, we have 3 months to get there, right? What would you do over the next 3 months to get 1,000 leads?
Probably break it down to, 330 a month, so make it sound easier.
Yeah.
Start calling sphere of influence and asking them, because who they might know that might be willing to buy, sell, or invest in real estate in the next, 60, 90, 120 days.
Sure.
I always tell people I try to say, ask for, who's 3 people that might be interested in, buying, selling, investing in real estate. And they're never really gonna give you 3, but you can usually get 1. And that's all you need to get, because then when you call somebody else, Bob said to give you a call, and people do business with people they like, know, and trust. And if Bob likes you, you're calling me, and then you do the same thing and you keep it going, then you don't have to stop.
I love that. So you're not calling and asking them who they know, you're calling and asking them who are the 3 people that will buy, sell, or invest in real
Yeah, they'll
estate.
say, well, I don't know. What about, your son's soccer practice? Say, oh, my preacher, because they'll say, well, I don't really know. Who do you know that might know?
Yeah.
And that's what my preacher knows everybody. Give him a call, So.
I love that. He's on the right track. What's your name, sir? Matt. Matt's on the right track. So sometimes if you give somebody a really general question, they can't narrow their mind enough to start rolling through people, right? So he's giving them specific places to look. He gave them a number. He also then, if they didn't give him an answer, would reference a group or a social setting that then they could then focus their mind in on, right? Yeah, it's like asking, if somebody asks me who I know, I'm gonna be like, my mind's gonna be going 1,000 miles a minute, right? I'm gonna be like, and I'm gonna give him a default answer. If I don't know, I'll let you know if I think of anybody, right? But if he's like, hey, who do you know at soccer practice? All of a sudden, my mind's able to go right there. And I'm like, nobody, but I do know this person.
Everybody knows somebody that knows somebody, that knows,
I'm trying to remember, I don't know if Wes might know or Lindy, one of you guys might know. What's the general rule? We all know 6 people a year.
Yes.
And that's probably where they got this percentage from, honestly, right? Everybody knows six people a year that'll buy and sell, right? So at some point this year, they're gonna know at least 6 people. And honestly, that might be how they got that percentage is, general rule of thumb is everybody knows 6 people. So if you have 500, it's 6% of that, Okay, well, we're almost out of time. Do you guys have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to, so I talk to Claire as much as Claire will talk to me, but she's a great resource. And something that she said to me a while ago that really changed my thought process on lead generation is, I always thought it was a big deal to do Facebook ads, give Facebook ads, call them, that's a good source for leads. And then Claire asked me, what's your team's main lead source? What are you actually closing? And I was like, oh, it's repeat and referrals. And she's like, then why aren't you contacting your repeat and referrals? And I was like, because I thought I had to be getting new leads, And so once we really dove into that, it's changed our business a lot. So I don't know if Facebook ads are such a big deal anymore. We don't run them hardly ever now, but just that thought process of where are your leads coming from? And then why wouldn't you go in, run into that as fast as possible as opposed to trying to get new leads? Because you said what a Facebook ad's now at a 1 year before they transact?
Yeah.
If not longer.
Easy. Somebody told me, and they're based out of Fargo, which similar, right? Slightly bigger town in the middle of, some country type atmosphere, but I think they said it was 600 and something days, which is 2 years. It's almost 2 years. That was their average for any type of forced registration lead, which is basically what a Facebook lead is.
You're saying repeat and referral is 3 months or something?
Yeah.
So like, why would you go after somebody that's a year and a half down where you have to like nurture that lead versus going straight for the person who could transact possibly in 3 months?
Yeah, and what are you spending on those leads, right? You know, if you're spending $1,000 on those leads, what would it look like if you took $1,000 and you loved on your database with it? You know, took dinner to the person who had a rough day, you know, sent flowers to somebody who just had a death in their family. What if you took that $1,000 and spent it there? What would that look like? You know, you're gonna, again, right? What I said at the beginning, and Wes and Lindy can probably attest to this, you know, there's people that have been in the business a little bit longer. Those contracts for people that are from repeat and referral business go 100 times smoother, right? The crazy person that called you on your Facebook ad,
They're crazy.
right? I mean, they're crazy, right? You know, you think you're a great agent because they're like, well, you're the first, you know, I've worked with 4 agents and just none of them were able to get the job done. And look at us working together. And then you get halfway through the contract and realize why nobody can work with them, right? Some people can be really tough, and we find it's a much smoother transaction. You know, it doesn't cost us a lot less money, and typically the price point's a lot better. So it's all really good stuff. Anything else? Well, thanks for having me, guys. This is fun.
Yeah.
All right. You guys like just got a break, so we've given you a lot of breaks today.
Put your phones away.
I know, right? Yeah. No, thank you so much, Claire. Let me make sure.
Hard one to follow up.
What are you doing? Economics?
Yeah, I didn't talk about numbers.
Oh. Let's talk about it.
Master class, everyone.
There we go. I know you are.
I don't need that yet, thank you.
All right. Jim. Oh, yes.
You guys do need a break, feel free. Let's take like 5 minutes or so. I know Nicole said not to, but I'm not prepared.
Good comeback.
I have like a little rain dance I do before I teach. Fred will read.
You got a little bit of time.
Yeah, I got it.